saving America one mind at a time. This is Smyth Radio. And now, your hosts, Carrie and Brian Smyth.
You call us fake news and put us down like children and
A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people. Changing it from fake news, though. Very fake news.
CNN fake news.
Okay, Bernie. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Smyth Radio. Your host, Brian Smith and
Carrie Smith.
Giving you the wrap up of the week. We take Monday through Friday. We tell you exactly what happened. We pick out the important pieces, dissect it all, make sense of it all, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where they hide the tidbits of information that you don't get, the little nuggets.
We break it.
We break that nugget.
We break it.
Break the nuggets open, show you the nice little pieces of diamonds inside, just polish it up a little bit, and we give it to you so that Monday morning when you get back to work, you'll know exactly what you're talking about. At the water cooler, you'll be able to tell all the liberals that you work with very politely that
they could go to hell.
It can all go to hell. I'm telling you, it's wait, here, I'll stop. If you want to be a part of the show, the call-in number is 513-888-1538. We do broadcast live every Sunday, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern, out of our underground bunker in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Whoa, you gave up too much information there.
It's a large city.
Okay, all right. We'll see.
Anywho, of hundreds of thousands of people participating right now. Well, it's probably over now, but the running of the running pigs, flying pigs, running pigs. If you see that trending on Twitter and you're wondering why is it running flying pigs, something or other? Every year, this is the 19th annual running of the pigs in downtown Cincinnati. Cincinnati was nicknamed Porkopolis back in the day. More pork flowed through Cincinnati than any other city in all of America. And for some reason, I left for LA about 17 years ago. No, was it that long? Oh my, 16 years ago, I left for LA.
Right.
When I came back in 2012, all of a sudden, I realized the city had this fascination with pigs with wings. What the water are they drinking?
It's the Flying Pig Marathon. It's like a big part of the marathon.
I know, but what is the whole deal with pigs and wings and flying pigs?
Because the name of the marathon is Flying Pig Marathon.
I know, but why does Cincinnati have this fascination? And folks, if you ever come to Cincinnati, you'll see, depending on where you're at, you'll see on the side of the road, like on the sidewalk, normally you'll see maybe somebody will take an electric box, a big giant electric box, and paint it, maybe make it very decorative. Well, they've just put these giant pigs up and down the streets, and they paint them. Could be mosaic, could be argyle, could be just really crazy styles of painting, but they're pigs with wings. I don't get it. Flying pigs.
Well, is that better or worse than calling us the Queen City?
I'm down with the Queen City. That's fine. If they said the Queenie City, then that's not cool.
What's a queenie?
Well, we don't want to get into that right now.
What's a queen?
Depends on which city you're in. If you're in San Francisco or Los Angeles.
Oh, man.
West Hollywood. Anywho. TMI.
Anyway.
So, folks, we're going to talk about a lot of things today. We're going to get into the meat of everything. And as the title of the show says, France slips into 1,000 years of darkness, while mainstream media defacing the nation. And in between the two of those, we'll get into a lot of other things. But the French election, what it's all about, and what has transpired. We talked about this a week ago, and our last show we touched on a little bit. The two opponents, and why is this even important to Americans? This election in France, I don't love the French. I'm not into the French. I don't dig the Frenchies. Never have been.
Remember we were boycotting French fries?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad. But anyway.
And when it comes down to it, it's not the French people I boycott or the French culture I dislike, although I do think it's a little dandy and kind of sissy little fruity things.
Well, we got to be tolerant here on the show.
And that's fine. It's their liberal ideologies and their agendas that I dislike.
Right. And the problem is the man's man, your alpha male, the one, that kind.
And they make fun of Americans for being those wild cowboys.
I'm not saying that France doesn't have the cowboy type, the alpha male type. It's just that they do not let those people have any kind of power whatsoever.
No.
They don't let it happen.
No, and the man in France with the little handkerchief tied around his neck.
Wait. Their idea of aggressiveness is pulling off their little leather gloves and slapping you with them.
Right. This goes back thousands of years.
I don't know. You know what it is? It's Bugs Bunny.
It is Bugs Bunny. We were raised with Bugs Bunny making fun of the French.
If you grew up with Bugs Bunny, the sophisticated way to get into a fight is the French way, which is pulling off your gloves one finger at a time in front of your adversary.
Very slowly.
One glove at a time, and then putting them together and grasping it with one hand and slapping them on one cheek and then backhanding slapping the other cheek.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then what Bugs Bunny does is he takes the steel iron from
you mean the anvil?
No, the knights with the swords and they wear the suit of armor.
Yeah.
He takes the armored glove.
Oh, he does the glove. Okay, I see.
So that's like the American way, the iron glove, just a crushing blow.
All right.
And so we have a few of the folks. If you want to listen to us live on Sunday evenings, you can join the chat line. We have Vanessa and we have Mary Lou on the chat, and we can converse back and forth with you throughout the 3 hours that we're on. You can also listen to us during the week, which a lot of folks say they do, on iHeartRadio. You can find us on iHeart.
When you get on iHeart, it automatically plays the most recent episode, and I think it goes chronologically backwards. So if you actually hit the forward button, you'll be listening to the previous weeks and so on. So it's kind of interesting the way that works. You don't actually select the show, you just get the most previous one.
Now, if you listen to iHeart on your computer, you can select a show.
Oh, okay. I never tried that. I just use my iPhone or Android device.
Do you have both?
No, I said iPhone and realized that I don't have an iPhone.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
So if you are on your computer or on your phone, if you go to iHeartRadio, you can search Smyth Radio, SMYTH Radio. Or if you're on your computer, you go iHeart.smithradio.com at a quick link for you. And if you want to listen to us live, type in smithradio.info, I-N-F-O. That'll take you directly to our Spreaker page. And on Sunday evening, you'll see the show flowing, if you will. It'll be moving, and it'll have a red button that says live.
And one thing we're doing, for those, some people that listen to us may have found us by the fact that I also do co-hosting one day a week on Your Voice America. And they're now doing video. It's funny because when Bill Mitchell first started, it was like, hey, we're all on Spreaker.
Right.
Everybody. It was like Wayne Dupree. And that's how Bill found Spreaker, was because he started doing Wayne Dupree's show. And so when he branched off, he's just doing that. And all of a sudden, like, the technology caught up or something. And now everybody's doing video. We haven't made that leap yet, but we're really seriously, like, we're
on the edge. I'm on the edge.
All we have to do really is just set up the studio so that it's a little bit more pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this is a typical radio studio, which is, it has trophies on shelves and
because of all of our awards,
stacks of papers randomly strewn. It's a radio studio. What are you gonna do? There's like a bookshelf with like books that shouldn't be on there, or just jammed in there, whatever.
Sure.
Records. Anyway, and then junk that can't fit anywhere else in the house, so it's got to go.
Right. So we are talking about
France,
and Vanessa just said, "Say it isn't so. I wasn't expecting that. Europe is falling apart." Well, if you get into the numbers of it, it is a one-sided beatdown by the globalist elite And according to some of the numbers I pulled up on the Google just before the show started, some people are saying that Macron is leading by 65% to Le Pen's 37%.
So it's like a 2-to-1 advantage for Macron. There's a reason for this. I wish I could give credit where I heard this because I've just been listening to everybody.
Okay.
But every country has its own type of election. Everybody thinks when you hear of democracy, you think, well, everybody goes and votes and they tally the votes and whoever has more than 50% wins or whoever has the most, whoever wins the plurality, whatever it might be, they win and then they become the leader of whatever they were running for. And the thing is that everybody does it differently. Shockingly, America is like one of the only places I know of that has an electoral college, which actually has probably saved us more times than once. It saved us with this previous election with Trump, because it seems to be the fact that Clinton did actually get the majority of all of America, but that Trump won because he won the Electoral College, and we could talk for 15 minutes on that.
Just real briefly, and we've talked about this to extent, very, very detailed. We've laid it all out, but the big reason is California, New York, huge population of people versus other states. If we did it vote by vote, person by person, certain states would be in complete control of all other states.
And you got to understand, too, and we're getting a little bit off on the sidetrack here because we're talking about France here, but in America, if there's a reason why we have different states and we have borders between the states and we have complete, full autonomous governments within each state, and they're called states. You ever notice that states, when you talk about states overseas, you're really referring to a whole country, a sovereign nation. And then you get to America, the United States of America, and you talk about a state, and you're like, well, that's not a country. That's just a part of the country of the USA. But originally, they were considered states because they were supposed to be considered autonomous, sovereign states, countries that were all united under the United States of America, small but limited, very federal government. And that's obviously gone out the window. But anyway, so that's why we do an electoral college and why it's so important, because Minnesota shouldn't have to be completely dominated by the whims and will of California and New York.
All right. Well, same as Ohio, Connecticut. I mean, you're talking Ohio's a big state, but Connecticut,
Rhode Island,
or Alaska,
Nevada. Yeah,
Alaska.
Yeah, Nevada has really low numbers. Outside of Las Vegas, there's pretty much nobody who lives in Nevada.
So the big thing, France has a different type of election.
Yeah, and they all do. And the thing that boils down, this was what I gathered from the French election, is that because of the way they have many, many, many parties, whereas in America, you have two parties that are so dominant, even a pretty daggone powerful third party just doesn't have a chance. It's why Donald Trump ran as a Republican, because
he had to.
Yeah, like 10 years ago or whatever, 12 years ago. It was a long time ago. Oh, I think it was all the way back when Ross Perot was thinking about, was it Ross Perot? Somebody was running on a third platform, and Donald Trump finally made the determination that third party just is not the way to win the presidency. And so that is precisely why he chose to become the nominee of the Republican Party, because he knew that was his only chance. It had to be one of the two main dominant parties. In France, apparently they have a bunch of parties, which means you're forced to become a centrist if you want to have any prayer. And this is why. When each of the nominees start to drop out, the constituents of the person who dropped out is going to support their next closest person. All right? The next closest candidate that's still in. And so if you have somebody that's fairly far right, maybe to the right of everybody else, all the other leftists and centrists that drop out are going to tend to support the candidate that closely aligns to their ideology.
Right.
So you end up with Macron, who they claim that he's a centrist. I think that that's propaganda. I mean, I think if you look at somebody who wants to just pretty much end France by giving it away to Islam, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. What kind of ideology is that? It sounds pretty extremist to me.
Well, if you look at the two parts, you got Macron and Le Pen. Macron's statement. Somebody put a meme up of Macron's statement and Le Pen's statement. And this is just a statement, just out there in the blue from Macron. Terrorism will be part of our daily lives. Quote. Terrorism will be a part of our daily lives.
So now we
got to work with it. That's Macron.
The center's position is that terrorism is the norm, and we just have to tolerate it and just kind of deal with it best we can.
Right. And Le Pen said, "I will bring Islamist fundamentalists to its knees."
Okay. Well,
two completely different ideologies about what's going on. And let me tell you, this was driving this election, because all leading up to the election, there were fears of terrorism, fears of bombing, things on high, placed on high alert, whether it be the Eiffel Tower. Or
France has been getting
the Louvre.
I don't know. I don't know nothing about France.
Some kind of art gallery up there.
Oh, yeah. You know what? If they really want to preserve any kind of French history whatsoever, they need to take every single piece of valuable artwork in the entire country and ship it to America for safekeeping for now. Put in a storage locker somewhere, because that's their only hope. They're going to get vandalized. They're going to get destroyed and stolen and burnt. They're not going to have anything left. They're probably going to tear down the arch, all that stuff.
Arc de Triomphe, which they put up
because Napoleon wasn't Islamic,
right? However, Hitler did march his troops through there, took video, and sent it around the world. Propaganda. Anywho, Islam won't stand up for that. So what's going on right now? Paul Nehlen, who we know ran against Paul Ryan as independent, as someone, a fresh new face, maybe they had a possibility, but no. Paul Nehlen tweeted out, "Paul Ryan celebrates Macron's win in France.
That's not good.
Invites all his friends to the party." That was that was early this morning. And Mary Lou, who's on the live chat, she actually tweeted that out on Spreaker, and I just want to let you know, yes, I saw that. Paul Nehlen put that out there. Paul Ryan, who you and I, Carrie, both had the same feeling about this dirty old...
Well, as we've stated before, we went to one of his rallies when he was running as VP, and he was touted as a Tea Party favorite, and when we listened to the words that came out of his mouth, we were like, wow, man, this is great. This guy's going to be a great leader. He's going to be a savior of the right, the conservative movement, all this stuff. Turns out he was lying through his teeth. He was a liar. And he's a really good liar, too, because what the problem with Mitt Romney when he ran was that he was a little bit too much centrist, a little bit too left. He's the architect of Romney Care in Massachusetts.
Right.
And so they brought on Paul Ryan, who is even worse because he's kind of like a wolf in sheep's clothing type person.
Right.
And so they said, "Oh, you're a good chameleon. Why don't you play the part of the right-wing Tea Party guy?" And he did. He's very good at it.
And we had our reservations. I was not jumping on board because, they got Paul Ryan. I didn't even know who the guy was.
Right. Nobody knew who he was. And that was why they picked him. They needed somebody that nobody knew who his true colors were, and somebody who's a method actor.
Right, absolutely.
And a very good liar.
Yeah, one of the best. It's just a shame. It's a shame what he's been doing. He gets on Hannity. Sean Hannity has been pressing Paul Ryan for a long time. He has him on the show. He presses him hard. And I told this to Carrie earlier this week. I am just amazed at the forked tongue, silver spoon tongue guy that Paul Ryan is. He just listening to him try to explain his reasoning for doing something or not doing something is you'll be shell-shocked at the end. You won't know what's up or down. But 24 hours ago, this was reported. Dirty tricks. French voters receive invalid, damaged ballots that are torn, therefore invalid. So if you vote by paper in France before the election, like early voting, if your ballot is torn, ripped, punctured, somehow defaced, if you will, physically, it will not be counted and is invalid. So a lot of voters in France reporting that they were receiving their ballots pre-invalidated with tears. So it's
isn't that convenient if you're a counter?
Hanging chads, anyone?
Le Pen. Oh, oops. Oh, is this a tear? Oh, isn't that a shame? Okay, throw that one away.
Can't do that. Hanging chad.
And so any damage, they just invalidate it. See, I like the idea of voter intent. Like, what did this voter intend to do? Oh, well, it says Le Pen. Well, yeah, there's a tear in it, but I can clearly see what they voted for. Count the damn thing.
Right. So they couldn't do that. And then days before the election, what happened? Don't tell me it's another WikiLeaks email debacle. Well, apparently Macron's email was hacked. The French media, ordered by the election body, if you will, ordered not to report or publish anything having to do with Macron's emails being hacked. They and the reason why they didn't want anybody talking about reporting it is because the documents indicate that he may be engaging in tax evasion.
Oh, no.
A company called La Providencia LLC, ironically, he claims isn't his, ironically, is the name of his high school.
Okay.
That's the high school he went to, which is an elitist, globalist high school. And he was raised groomed, if you will, and in high school where a lot of people do. They meet the love of their life. Maybe in college, you might, your high school sweetheart or your college sweetheart. Well, he met his wife in high school. Fell in love.
Isn't that sweet? That's his high school sweetheart.
High school sweetheart. And if you look at the pictures, if you look at the pictures of his wife, she needs to stay out of the tanning booth and eat a cheeseburger. And maybe use some wrinkle cream. She's like 25 years older than him, 20 years older than him.
How is he dating his high school sweetheart, but then she ends up 25 years older?
It was his teacher.
Oh.
It was his teacher.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, so she just got out of prison or something? Because, you go to prison for that for a while. Good, statutory rape or something.
Right. Oh, and that's something else. Thank you, Mary Lou. I forgot about this. Obama and elitist Angela Merkel both endorsed Macron. So you got to see who supports who, just like the Democrats here in America say, oh, look, the neo-Nazis are supporting Trump. They do that on purpose because we know to look at people's supporters and you can tell who they are. So they just use that to twist us, try and get us off guard of what's real and what's not real. What is real? Obama interfering in a foreign election once again as the former president of America. I really honestly believe that presidents, current and former American presidents, should stay the hell out of other countries' election. Do not mess with elections. You can't. It's not right. Like, you wouldn't see, for all intents and purposes, you saw what happened to Bush. I mean, I'm not saying that I liked him or whatever, but you saw what Bush did. He walked away. You saw what Reagan did. He walked away. You saw what Carter did. He got involved. Carter got involved. You get Bill Clinton involved. Just muddy in the waters, messing with things. You got to stop that.
Right.
So thank you, Mary Lou. I know that it's disheartening. I really hate to see. I really wish that Obama would have walked away and moved away. But the globalist agenda, they need him because there is no face to the Democrat Party anymore. The only one that they had was Obama, and now They're desperately flailing for a new one. And anyways, I digress. So yes, Macron, high school sweetheart, was his teacher, and Macron has come out and said, "This is all a Russian conspiracy."
How did that happen?
It's the Russians that got my email.
Oh, boy.
So he's bringing Russia into this.
Well, I mean, it's almost like, well, here's the thing. The fake news, he knew he was lying about it, right? He knew he had to lie about what happened with the leaks. The problem is a lot of people, a good chunk of people, believe the lie, the fake news of what happened with with Clinton when they came out and said that Russia hacked the election,
okay,
and helped Trump win the election,
right?
And that was the Clinton camp and all of her propaganda ministry, which is the mainstream media.
And Comey this week also said Russia helped Trump because they don't like Clinton.
Okay,
so we got Comey also helping to push the narrative.
Right. All of the above. It's an all hands on deck thing. After all this time, I still see people on Facebook and on Twitter posting out that the interference by Russia, by hacking into Clinton's emails and distributing them and publishing them in a way that totally helped Trump and hurt Clinton, was real. That really happened, and that Russia is almost solely responsible for Trump winning. And and people are absolutely 100% believe that, to the point where they'll post stuff on Facebook with all the world to see, all their friends and relatives and colleagues, wherever they may work, see that they truly believe that Vladimir Putin essentially put Trump where he is.
And I blame them for being ignorant and naive and not looking into it for themselves. But again, Comey this week also said he would not comment on the PP dossier, the
fake 4chan fanfic.
Yes, he's still talking about that as if it was real.
Oh boy. So
and I watched with my brother and my wife the other night. I watched The Sting.
I gotta see
Robert Redford and Paul Newman, all about never giving up the con.
Okay.
The whole movie is all about conning somebody, who's conning who, to get in, to get the money, to get the power, to win. Never give up the con, even at the last minute when you're caught or you think you're caught. Never give it up. And ironically, at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, the movie's only about 44 years old. It was made in 1973, but it's a great movie. At the very end of the movie, they think they're caught and the foil is up. And ironically, it's not, because they keep on keeping on with the con.
Right. Yeah. Well, and so that's what France is doing.
Yes.
And the weird thing is why even go there? Did he really think that there was a chance he would lose? He wins. He gets 2 votes for every 1 vote for Le Pen. I mean, what kind of research are his people doing to where he thinks that he needs to come out with a new lie? And Jack Posobiec is...
He's threatened with a lawsuit.
He was
poor Jack.
I don't know if he's threatened or if they formally filed a lawsuit against him.
Well, it was. I saw his video on. He had an official video about it on YouTube where he talked about the French media started blasting him in French on Twitter, accusing him of being a Russian spy, Russian hacker. And, of course, he's Russian. Look at his last name. It's Slavic. And Jack responded, wrong, fake news. I'm Polish.
Well, his first response was, that's racist hate speech.
Yes, that's right.
That was his first response.
That's right.
And I could not help but laugh at that, because talk about giving it back to him. Just the way, serving it up on the same plate they serve it up on us with. And so I thought that was hilarious. And I thought that as soon as he said that, I thought it was because Posobiec was a Russian name, which is interesting. Polish, I have a friend that's from Poland, That's one of the moms from my daughter's American Heritage Girls troop. I mean, she newly arrived from Poland, and she's old enough to remember as a little girl the Soviet Union. She lived under Soviet rule.
Oh, man.
So in a way, if you're of Polish descent, you do have a connection to Russia via the Soviet Union.
Oh, so just like Jews have a connection to Germany.
Interesting. Interesting. Those Nazis. Can't believe those Nazis.
I know, right?
Man. Anyway. So yeah, good point there.
I've got Paul Joseph Watson took to the tube today.
Okay.
And did his 5-minute rant that he normally does where he'll cut it up and it's real fast moving. I've got the audio of the entire thing, but he really, and the reason why I wanted to play it is because Paul Joseph Watson is in Europe. He can see things that there's a huge filter. It's called the pond, the Atlantic Ocean. Giant filter. Apparently, things that happen in Europe get filtered through the water before it comes over here.
Okay.
So there's things that we don't, even with the internet, I mean, the internet's great and all, and we're able to get more information than we've ever been able to have before in all of human history. But Paul Watson is over there. I trust him. I like him. I like where he comes from. He's one of us, if you will, a deplorable. Supported Trump from the beginning, supported Le Pen, supported Nigel Farage. I mean, these are all the independent thinkers, the nationalists, if you will, that want their countries to be great again as an individual country. So, as Paul Joseph Watson states, he's got some insight on this election.
Okay.
French authorities are investigating whether fake news influenced the election. I agree, it did. The fake news that Macron is a maverick outsider when he's the ultimate establishment insider. They actually conned people into thinking that a bureaucrat from the outgoing socialist government was a populist outsider, an elitist who went to the very French school used by the elite to perpetuate itself, groomed by the establishment, groomed by Hollande. A Rothschild banker, a Bilderberg member, a pet project of the Élysée Palace, who's never been elected to anything in his entire life. If he's an outsider, I'm the frigging Queen of England. CNN said he was defying the mainstream. He is the frigging mainstream. He's been endorsed by every single unelected EU technocrat under the sun. Claiming Macron is an outsider is literally fake news.
The French people have been able to see the real Macron in the second round. The candidate of the elite's mask is slipping.
But hey, at least foreign interests aren't interfering in the French election like the evil Russians did in the US election, right? Wrong.
I am supporting Emmanuel Macron to lead you forward.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Disgrace.
Okay, but at least Obama didn't try to hack the French election, right? Wrong again. It was his CIA that hacked Marine Le Pen's campaign back in 2012. Macron and Obama have a lot in common already. For starters, they both love to prosecute journalists. But at least, unlike Brexit and Trump, the French media has been fair and balanced, right? Wrong again. Their tongues couldn't get any deeper down Macron's butt crack. Look at this. Have you ever seen a clearer illustration of partisan bias? Who's voting for this guy? Paris is hit with 6 jihadist attacks in just 3 years, and only 5% of them vote for Le Pen. They might as well wave a white flag. Are these idiots going to be out on the street once again? So-called feminists physically trying to block people from voting for a woman who would be the first female president of France. Yeah, put some clothes on.
Okay, and he said put some clothes on. Can somebody, I know we got a couple of ladies that are on the chat line. Could somebody please help me out? Why do feminists who want respect for their private parts and want to be revered as an equal member of society, why in the Sam hell are they always stripping down naked?
Oh, you mean like the little pasties when they go out and march?
There was no pasties on these.
Really?
No.
Where was I?
In America.
Oh, this was over in France.
Yeah.
Maybe it was like a nudist colony or something.
Well, that's fine and all, but you get arrested for that anyway. I mean, you just can't.
Indecent
Even
exposure.
in Italy, the Italian culture, the beautiful culture that it is, when you go to any beach in Italy, any beach, it is customary, if you are a woman and you feel like it, you could take your top off.
Really?
However, if you get up and go to the concession stand,
Yeah.
you put your top back on. Or
Really?
if you go off the boardwalk,
Okay.
you put your top back on. You don't walk around in public like that.
So if you're on the beach, like near the water, laying out or whatever.
Yeah, or even walking up around on the beach, it's fine, no big deal. But if you go up past the boardwalk to where you're going into an area where people are clothed and not bathing suited,
Yeah.
then you put your top back on.
Well, let me ask you this. If you're inside the fenced area of a public pool, would that be okay?
Yeah.
You can take it top off?
Oh, I don't know if they do that in Italy.
Oh.
But
because it's
on the
what's
beach,
so special about the beach?
I mean, the beach is a sacred place to those folks.
Okay.
Sacred place, the beach.
Wow, that is a...
They get upset when the big, giant, loud, boisterous Germans come down on their beaches.
Why?
Because they're big and they're loud. And they take it off too. They don't want to see that.
Oh. Okay.
And they wear that man thong thing.
The Germans do. But not the Italians?
Oh, they do too. But they look good.
I am so
They're
confused.
thin and masculine.
So Italians are thin and the Germans are big, hairy beasts. For the most part.
All right. Oh, Mary Lou just said, just a reminder, Hillary had a photo op with Bill on a bathing suit. It was, yes, I saw it. She had tree trunks. It was disgusting.
Oh, the cankles?
The cankles. Hillary had a bathing. So here's my point. Feminists want respect for the private parts, yet their private parts are what they expose to everybody to get attention.
Well, they want you to see how sacred that is, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's feminists are different than normal people. They wear their private parts on their sleeve, I guess. I mean, it's what defines them. If you look at a gay conservative, which, by the way, Brian and I were at the new media correspondence
dinner.
Yeah, the gala, and just like Bull Moose, which we were also, I mean, there were lots more gay conservatives than I thought I'd ever meet in my life.
Right.
And that's that crowd. It's like that inner circle of people who, it's like the fringe of the right. And it's like this, they're really loud. So that's why they're journalists. They want to be heard, and they write and they make videos and they get together, they become friends, and and then we go to the Bull Moose and we go to the correspondence dinner and all that, and we meet these people, and I'm telling you, they don't wear sex on their sleeve.
No.
It doesn't define them. Their private parts and all that. They don't really. It's not brought up because it's not part of the conversation. But you look at liberal gay people and liberal straight people.
I have never had so much hate put upon me than by gay liberal people. Out in LA.
California.
Oh
yeah.
my. They hate. They got so much hate built up. Like you were saying at the place where we were at, I mean, there were men who looked very masculine, very bearded, husky dudes that I wouldn't get in a fight with. And I'm not looking at him like, is he gay or is he straight? I don't know. And then there were some very
dainty-looking
metrosexual.
Right. I know what you're talking about.
Very delicate, like they would rather read a book than play football.
Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm.
But that for me to be curious about what they're going to do later on the night with their partner, that's got nothing to do with nothing.
Right.
I could care less.
Right.
And Mary Lou brought up how much that she likes Milo and that Milo's coming back, making his comeback. I think it's great.
Yeah, he just had a thing in Florida. I think it was Miami. And Cassandra and Jack Posobiec and a bunch of people were out there for that. If I had money to just drop on a two-way last-second flight down there, I would have loved to have been a part of that. I did get to see a little bit of the live feed. You could tell Milo is making a big spectacle of the big comeback, so I think that's pretty cool. Because he if he's going to push the conservative narrative, then he should be trying to do it as loud as possible. And he was very loud. He was like, had a yellow albino boa constrictor around his neck. Yeah, you didn't hear about this? Yeah, he had this giant, like 10-foot long yellow boa. He said, give me the snake. And I'm like, whoa.
Give me the snake.
Oh, and he was flanked by 2 topless giant black guys.
Of course he was.
And then, have you seen the movie?
Said, give me the snake.
Oh, man.
Not the python, the boa.
Yeah, when he said, give me the snake, I was like, what's going to happen here?
Wow.
And I said, does he mean a real snake? And I'll be. And he pulled out this giant. I was thinking, what is this little thing that's, maybe, not very big, and you just wrap it around his neck. No, this thing was about 6 inches diameter.
Pretty healthy girth.
It had a lot of girth. Yeah. And wrapped it around his neck, and it was kind of getting tight, and I thought, man, that thing's big enough to maybe
choke him out.
Oh, yeah. Wow. So, anyway, and then, gosh, I can't remember the movie, but it was Nicolas Cage, and he was an arms dealer, and it's based on a true story.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it's called.
No, not Narcos.
No, and it wasn't Blow or anything like that. It was, he's an arms dealer. He's like a Russian guy. But anyway, in that movie, he goes to like a high-end arms, like a trade show, but it was for like big dealers, and they trade
Lord of War. And remember the trade show he went to, and they had they were trading jets and tanks and stuff like that, and there were all these like big wig billionaires and all that kind of stuff, and he got laughed out of there because he's just small time. Well, there were some women there that were kind of dancing on the planes, and they were in like camouflage, but very skimpy dressed. Right. Milo had the girls like that, dressed up like that, with the camouflage skimpy dress. Yeah, it was really funny. Yeah, Vanessa's on the message board. She said that Milo is one of our most important allies because he, like Trump, does not apologize for who they are.
Right.
Liberals think we are not inclusive. He throws that right back in their face and doesn't apologize for it.
Yeah, he's like the better version of Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter has the same attitude, and by the way, they love each other. The problem is that Ann Coulter is so entrenched in politics for so long that every single time Trump does something that historically would be a political faux pas, she freaks out, and it's really getting tiresome. And she did it early on in the primary when he was still fighting all the different Republicans that were running, and she would freak out, and then when she would go on to a talk show and they would interview her, she would liken Trump to the 14-year-old boy who is a prodigy, but is always getting into trouble, and you constantly have to go and give him a spanking or whatever.
Yeah, she needs to let that go.
She's still doing that.
Oh,
she's like still freaking out about every little dumb thing that she believes as an establishment person. And I've been trying to say this for the past couple of weeks now. We are, maybe a couple months, we're in a new paradigm. And all these people, if you want to know why there's so many people that are constantly criticizing Trump for this, that, and the other thing, even today, it's for the same reasons that they were freaking out when all these revelations came out, like the Access Hollywood tapes and all the other crazy things that happened during the general election and the primaries, where we all thought, well, I guess it's going to be the beginning of the end for Trump. Well, guess what? It wasn't. And the reason why, and now we know why, is because we're in a brave new world. We're in uncharted territory where that kind of stuff is going to be let fly by the vast majority of Americans, because we know that this is the right guy to lead America. Not all these establishment cucks and
communist elites,
communist elites, all these people that think they know how to run our lives better than we know how to run our lives. And so we're going to give them a pass on the political correctness or lack thereof, because It doesn't matter. Some of the things that they say that, oh, he shouldn't have said that, or oh, he shouldn't have worded it that way, or what does he mean by that, or why did he do that? That's not going to look good politically. We don't care. We're dying over here because we can't afford $700 a month premiums with a $5,000 deductible for health care.
It means $1,700 a month.
Well, so for other people, it's different. Yes. Yeah, and here's the thing. We've gotten to the point under Obama where we found it to be just a little bit better for our future to not be covered at all by any kind of health insurance and either A, hope for the best and pray for health every night when we pray to God, or just resign ourselves to having to file for bankruptcy when we show up to the emergency room for whatever ails us.
Right. And we're going to get into the healthcare business because that was a little bit of a hot topic this week.
Yeah.
But as we're talking right now, we're talking about France, the French election, the 1,000 years of darkness that France will now enter into.
Right.
We were listening to Paul Joseph Watson giving his take on what was going on, what is currently going on in France with Macron. I got 2 minutes left of his rant, which is really good. He's exposing Macron, who is supported by Obama and Angela Merkel, exposing him for the globalist elitist that he is. He is apparently, he's got this fetish for cougars, if you will. There's a picture of him meeting with Angela Merkel. She's on a couch. He's on a couch. And subsequently, there's another picture of him sitting on the floor at her feet.
Okay.
Speaking with her. Very strange stuff.
That is kind of weird.
Anyway, so if you do the Google Angela Merkel, Macron sitting on the floor, it'll come up.
Okay.
So here's the rest of PJW, Paul Joseph Watson, on his rant on France.
You're a fucking disgrace. Macron branded 8 million Le Pen voters hateful cowards. They're mostly just a mixture of young people anxious that their economic and cultural future is being stolen, and older folk living out in the rural areas forgotten by the very liberal intelligentsia that Macron represents. Hateful cowards? You're the hateful piece of Macron. You've got the nerve to call Le Pen a fearmonger, while you literally invoke the threat of civil war if people vote for her. Give me a fucking break. No wonder whenever you meet real people outside of your metropolitan elitist bubble, they boo and hiss.
Well, you can hear it. Factory workers whose jobs are under threat booed Mr. Macron.
Oh yeah, and why do you have a grandma for a wife? Is there something you're not telling us about Macron? Is there something the French people deserve to know about? Maybe something other countries could use to blackmail you with. Here's a guy who's so arrogant, he names his party after his own initials. Cult of personality, Mark.
Yes, he did.
But seriously,
he did.
Macron is just going to be Merkel's bitch.
France will be led by a woman. It'll be either me or Mrs. Merkel. That's the truth.
After all, he's into being all weirdly subservient to older women. Macron's already signified he'll scheme with her to try to block Brexit. He wants to put sanctions on Poland just because they refuse to have their sovereignty eviscerated by the EU.
So what that was all about is that they want sanctions on other countries in the European Union if you do not take on immigrants, Muslim terrorist immigrants from the Middle East. Yeah, that's what you got, France. You got the globalist elite whack job.
It doesn't make any sense. They make it sound like if there's nowhere for them to go in the Middle East. I mean, why aren't they doing what America has been criticized for the past 20 years and just go in there into the Middle East and go to war and create kind of like a state the way they did for Israel after World War II and make it be the Muslims that don't feel like getting slaughtered state? I don't know. I mean, why are they fleeing? Because there's wars. Are they fighting you? Well, yeah. Why? They just are. What are they? Are they really? Seriously, think about it. What are these people fleeing? If I was plopped in the middle of the Middle East, I would have to flee because I'm not Islamic. I'm not Muslim. I'm not a Muslim. That's not my faith. I would have to flee. There are Muslims seeking asylum to different countries, refugee status from the Middle East. It doesn't make any sense. Who are these people? And they're of fighting age.
They don't know who they are, and the government is not. Because
I'll tell you,
there's no government records on who they are.
Right, you wouldn't know. But I'll tell you this: if there was like an obvious Christian area or Christian areas, or just Christians in general, who were fleeing en masse, and these were bona fide Christians leaving the Middle East, I would probably be at the White House picketing to let them in. Because they're not, they're not going to run through a club with an AK-47 shooting as many people as possible.
Ironically, we reported on some of those numbers, the Christians seeking refugee status versus Islam.
Right.
Under Obama, which I think Christians were like in the 1 to 2 percentile.
Okay.
Versus the 98% of them were Muslim.
You mean the people that
Islamic.
were let in?
Yeah.
See, I think that should be the first test. Is if you're
you want a religious test?
Well, here's what I would ask: why do you need refugee status? Because if they say, well, because there's a war here. Okay, so are you on neither side? Are you on one side or on the other side? Oh, I'm just a civilian. Well, what are they fighting over, and what are they killing people for? Now, if they said they were gay, that might be something.
Oh, sure, because the Muslims are throwing gays off top of buildings.
Right. That would be something. Because I'm gay. And they said they're going to, as soon as they find me, they're going to throw me off the top building. That would be something we could talk about.
Prove it.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it.
Prove it. Wow.
Well, because you know how, by hook or by crook, the Quran says, lie, cheat, and steal.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it even says you can lie about your religious status of whatever. You can even pretend to be another religion as long as it's it.
Can you pretend to be
gay? There's an imam on YouTube, and this was a couple years ago. This is about 2012, 2013. Imam on YouTube speaking to as an open forum, and he said we are developing new ways to carry bombs into areas undetected. And the way that we're doing this is in the bum of the Muslim. And the guy said, what? Isn't that against the Quran to enter there?
To do some, like,
and he said,
enter objects?
And he said, it's for Allah and Allah's good, which means it's acceptable, but go ahead and pray about it anyways.
Just pray about it just in case.
Yes!
And they were okay with that.
Yeah!
Yeah, see, they're a bunch of hypocrites.
It's twisted.
If you can't practice what you preach, you might want to revisit what you're preaching. Simple as that.
Yeah.
The ends. They are the ends justifies it, the means religion.
The back end justifies them.
Oh, wow. Which end are we talking about?
Woo!
Oh, man, that's what you get on Smyth Radio.
Vanessa called it a bum bomb.
Oh, there we go. Wow.
Whew. And I know Mary Lou brought up a socialist Venezuela as a good example for everything going on with these socialists, communists over in Europe. They're in Europe. They're in South America. We have Venezuela slated to be discussed this evening as well.
Again.
A little bit. Oh, man. It's.
Well, I mean, we like to talk about ideology. And
that's why we got to talk about Venezuela.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about communism versus capitalism, what it boils down to. And you know what we didn't do yesterday? We should have.
Saturday. Oh, we went to the Air Force Museum.
We went to the National Museum for the United States Air Force, which is also called Wright-Patterson Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. We should have cast from there. We should have live cast from the communist hangar. Or the Cold War hangar.
Oh, the Cold War hangar.
Yeah.
Man.
They have a whole entire... Well, first of all, they added another hangar.
So there's 4 huge hangars.
These hangars are big enough to park a Zeppelin in, and I'm not kidding. And you guys,
they actually have one of the balloons in one of the hangars.
Yeah, and it's just off in the corner.
Right.
No, a Zeppelin is like the largest thing that's ever been in the sky. Ever.
Yeah.
Just enormous. I don't have the stats in front of me, but these hangars at the museum are easily big enough to fit one, maybe even more in. They are enormous. But anyway, it's always been, I think when I was a little kid, there may have only been 2 hangars. But now, for the past 20 or 30 years, it's been 3 hangars. And now they just added a 4th hangar. So it's one of these kinds of museums that I would think that the entire Smithsonian complex in D.C. would fit under all of this. You could fit all of the Smithsonian museums in these things, guarantee you, without any doubt whatsoever. But anyway, they have one of the 4 giant hangars that's devoted to the Cold War, and we really missed out. We could have cast from that.
That would have been fun. That would have been nice.
Yeah. We could have talked about the stuff there. But anyway.
We went up there with 10 members of our family, our party of 10. Mm-hmm. We went up there. I am not doing that again.
Don't do that?
We were forced, Carrie and I were forced to jet through this place so fast, no pun intended. We couldn't stop and soak up the ambiance.
It doesn't matter how many people you're with.
Well, they wanted to hurry up and go.
Well, we were there all day.
7.5 hours is never enough.
It wasn't that long.
We were there 7 hours.
No.
Yep.
No.
9:15 to 4:15.
Is that 7 hours?
Okay, well, 9 to 12:15 is 3. And then 4 more to 4:15. 3 and 4 is 7.
Wow. And we had to run through. That has nothing to do with the number of people that were with us.
We had to run through it to see it all. Loved it. Just an incredible museum. So we're wrapping up the whole thing with France. My last take on France. It's a shame. I'm sorry to see you guys. We helped you. We literally saved the French culture and language in 1917, 18. We helped you get
worth it.
Underneath.
Wasn't worth it.
The Kaiser got you away from that. Britain came to your rescue in the late 1930s and early 40s, where they allowed you, the French, to run from your country and hang out in Britain while waiting for America to come throw the switch to change it all back. We gave your country back to you. Now you're giving it away to the Muslim Brotherhood, the Society of Islam. Folks, this is no joke. Women, if you see the picture that I posted for the show today, it is a Muslim practicing woman wrapped in the burqa, the color of the French flag.
Right.
And they did it for America. They did it for other countries. Well, the thing is they're dressed as in the burqa of that country's flag to symbolize that we're going to dominate you. And they are. They got you.
And feminists are like touting this, and they're excited about it. They think it's so hip. You know? They're like, look, a burqa. It's so diverse. we're celebrating diversity by showing how awesome it is that they get to wear a burqa. That's what they want to do, and that's part of their culture.
I'm going to tell you what, from you, the social justice warriors, feminist elite, brandishing your boobies and your vaginas in public, you better watch yourself, because the Muslims are coming.
Might get thrown off the top of a building.
They ain't gonna put up with none of that shenanigans.
Yeah, and it's like a 3-story building, so you might not die right away. You gotta, I'm telling you, man. You notice that?
Wow.
They're not very tall buildings. And
I didn't think you could. Well, depending on how you land.
Well, I think they try to throw them off head first to give it a better chance of killing them.
Right. Okay.
But if you land just right, you probably could survive.
So what's your last take on France? Where does France go from here?
Okay, so here's the thing about France. I'm American.
America.
I'm America.
America.
Okay. And that being said, it didn't matter one way or another because there's positives that come out of either way. If Le Pen won, it would have been like, all right, the world is on its way to doing things the right way, the capitalist way. Nationalism is a good thing. Robert Frost, good fences. There was a good fences make good neighbors. That's all absolutely true. It doesn't mean you have to be at war with them. You don't put a wall up because you're at war. Although there's a historic argument that, like, what is this Great Wall of China doing here? Well, apparently they were at war with their neighbors, and by building that wall,
everybody,
right. So
4,000 plus miles of wall.
Yeah, and there's other countries. I think England has like a 200-mile wall somewhere in the country that was built thousands of years ago, whatever, to keep out some other people. And that's not necessarily a requirement. You don't have to be at war with somebody to build a wall. My point is that nationalism doesn't necessarily mean you hate everybody else. It just means that we want to protect our sovereignty, and we want to send a message to everybody else that our culture and our sovereignty mean a lot, and that we're not going to tolerate outsiders messing around.
And you're listening to Smyth Radio, the fastest talk radio you will ever hear on Sunday evenings, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern. That was our first hour.
Okay.
All France. In our third hour, we're going to get to Trump and everything going on with Trump, but
yeah, I want to finish my thought on that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So if Le Pen wins, the nationalism throughout the world is on the rise, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
Liberals believe that nationalism is what caused World War I and II, both of them.
Because of the revisionist history professors that teach them. There's no other way that you would know that. Well, if they didn't mix their words and ideologies.
Their intuition is, if people are so proud of their own country and they need to put walls up and they need to keep outsiders out and the insiders in and
isolationists,
whatever, that somehow that causes misunderstanding with people from other countries that end up leading to war. It's just their intuition. And I subscribed to that for a long time. I thought, yeah, man, why can't we all just be one? I mean, what's with these borders? There's nothing to fight for anymore. You know, the Imagine lyrics.
No religion too.
Yeah, no. He actually mentions that twice. He really hates it.
He did.
He did. So there's that. But she lost. So Macron won. So here's the good thing about Macron winning. He is going to destroy France. He's going to let it be destroyed. He's going to implement the policies, the immigration policies, the refugee policies, and the anti-speech policies, the anti-nationalism, the globalism that is going to end up causing France to not just fall, but it's going to be a spectacular implosion followed by an explosion, similar to the way we've been taught in science about supernova.
Oh, so you're saying France is going to go supernova?
It's going to go supernova.
Okay,
it's going to be an implosion and then an explosion. And it's going to be so bright you're going to be able to see it hundreds of millions of light years away.
Wow, so they'll actually enter history longer than anyone else.
They won't know about France for that long. So Jeez. And what that's going to do is France is going to serve as a warning to the rest of humanity. All of humanity.
I thought Germany was doing it, but apparently not. Apparently France is going to be made the example of.
Well, the reason here's the thing about Germany. They got the big, giant, burly men that infiltrate the Italian beaches.
Right.
They're probably a little bit more intimidating. You get to France and you get the little... The scarf around the neck and they pull off the glove. They're going to be shot a million holes before they get the glove off.
Vive la France! Ferro Jaco, Ferro.
Ho ho!
Oh wow! Whew.
That's how they talk, right?
Yeah, apparently.
Ho ho! Anyway, so they're going to get infiltrated. They're going to get dominated. They are going to be cucked from here to Tuesday.
Into submission.
Yeah,
Right.
totally. And they're going to serve as a warning to the rest of the world. Great Britain saved themselves with Brexit. That was the big savior for them. They're going to go down as the last ones, because Germany's going to go, France is going to go. Not sure what's going on with Spain. How are they so? They are so like in the back of the classroom.
Right.
They're not the class clown though. They're in the back of the classroom, just trying to avoid getting seen. But they're right there. You got Spain and Portugal. Nobody knows what's going on with them. Nobody. It's just all about Germany and France, and Britain is out of the EU now. You had Greece on fire, and what's going on with Italy?
Oh, their economy's falling apart. And they have an invasion from when I was in the 90s. When I was in Italy in the Air Force, I was stationed there in Aviano Air Base, and their big problem, their big crime wave, was Africans, North Africans coming in, jumping in a boat.
Right.
And breaking the border.
Because they're right on the Mediterranean.
And let me tell you, they'll rob, cheat, steal, do whatever they got. It was bad, real bad.
Okay.
And now they've got Islamic Africans.
Right. Because a lot
coming over. Right.
A lot of those northeastern and northern states in Africa are Muslim countries. So,
right.
Anyway, so you got all these, and then of course the Nordic states, Sweden and all them, they are done. They are done. It's over with for them. They're getting raped on the daily, and they're just taking it. You know, where's the men? Could you imagine? See, I'm 41 now, so I'm a little bit more beside myself compared to the way I was when I was in my 20s. If I found out that a woman got raped, I felt like going out and getting vengeance on somebody.
Yeah.
That stuff's not just. It's not happening.
It was very rare to hear those stories.
Well, and I would try not to imagine it in my head, but definitely if a loved one of mine that happened to them.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
there'd be some problems.
There'd be a lot of bodies before I was finally in prison.
Right.
Yeah, and so where are the men in Sweden? Where are the men in these places where all these rapes are taking place?
Video, somebody put a video on Twitter. It was a security camera in Hungary, and this woman was walking down the street with a purse, and a refugee tiptoed, snuck up behind her, grabbed her, threw her to the ground, started slamming her head on the ground and punched her, but he was looking around, trying to tear her clothes and looking around, and then finally grabbed her purse and ran off. I mean, this is a common occurrence now.
So just a purse snatcher, whatever.
Right, but
okay.
But a single woman walking down the streets.
Oh, yeah, can't do it.
Can't do that anymore.
But, back in the 70s, you couldn't do that in New York City. Yeah, you walk down the street in New York City.
Oh, it was dangerous. Rudy Giuliani cleaned that up.
Right. You would not be caught dead. A woman in the middle of the night with a purse walking down the street anywhere in New York City back in the 70s or earlier. So, I mean, it's not like it's a unique thing, but the rape thing is just weird. Did you know that, all the stories about how all these artists that have concerts are no longer having them in Sweden because every time they have them, the Muslims rape all the teenage little girls?
No, not in Sweden.
Yeah, that was big news.
That happened last night in Sweden?
If there was a concert...
Last night.
Almost guaranteed.
In Sweden. Oh, wow.
No.
That's insane.
Every concert.
Really?
Yeah. You didn't hear about this?
No. Okay, I didn't know it was that. I heard that there were incidents, but I didn't know it was rampant.
They would have 23 reports of rapes in one concert.
Holy smoke.
I can't believe you didn't hear about this. So what they would do is they would go in a pack. All right. The Muslim kids or teenagers or 20-year-olds or whatever, they would be in a pack, and they would identify a target, and they would coordinate the group to slowly get to a point where they were surrounding the girl, and then they would create a barrier, a human barrier as an outer shell of their group. It'd be a large group of men, and they would protect from outsiders trying to get in to save the girl. and then the inner circle would then take turns raping the girl in the middle of the crowd.
Oh, and keep everybody outside by keeping them out of shell of the circle.
Yeah, they would all protect their rapist
I
buddies.
did hear about that.
Yeah. Well, that would happen multiple times, like 20 times, reports of this. And these are just young, early teenage girls, like really young girls, going to a concert.
They ain't doing that no more.
Yeah. Imagine it's your girlfriend or sister or somebody that you're with, and you can't even get in there to save her because they're all creating the human shield. I mean, what do you do?
This is what you've got coming from the Middle East. This is the Islamic takeover of society.
Well, the reason I brought that up is because Sweden was the only place they were talking about it. It became big news when all these artists started finding out about it. That was happening at their concerts. And they were like, okay, we are no longer, like whole groups of bands were vowing not to have any part of their tour in Sweden because of this. Well, I just heard yesterday that this is exactly what's happening in France already. That they're doing the rape circles in crowds, in concerts in France.
Wow.
So I thought it was just a Swedish thing, but no, France is having to go through it too. So yeah, it's over. It's over out there. And if I were, they need to fill in the tunnel that goes from France to Britain. They need to fill it in with concrete and just move on. Seriously.
Sorry, got to close this channel down.
I know it took you a couple years with the drill going through underneath the channel.
Yeah.
They need to just cut their losses.
Just real quick about the tunnel. When England crossed over and France, when they finally met right there under the ocean and they crossed over, some liberal history professor I had back in college said, yeah, can you believe those Brits? Well, when they crossed over, the French had, like a celebration and a wine and cheese and like a dinner and like a real celebratory thing. But when the French went to the Brit side, it was nothing. I'm like, what? Why is that even a story? Why are you even telling us kids in college this? It's insane. It's all about that narrative. I love the French. Well, I've fallen out of love with them now.
Yeah.
If I had any love, I've done no more.
I'm definitely boycotting French fries.
Yeah. How about Venezuela? I'd boycott something if they had it.
Is there new news with them? Because
Lord.
It's like bread lines and all that kind of stuff.
So check this out. There is a man, God rest his soul, maybe he's still alive, nobody knows, but his name is Leopoldo Lopez.
Okay.
He was part of the opposition party in Venezuela, and he held supposedly, I don't know, folks. This is just the information I've gathered. It could be either or, but apparently I've found that he's held non-violent protest against the government takeover of the people and whatnot. He was arrested and sentenced to 14 years in prison. They're saying because of disturbing public order, arson, among other offenses. So that's all the article said. This was from dailymail.com. Disturbing public order and arson and other offenses. So he's doing 14 years. His wife, ironically, meets with Donald Trump.
Okay.
The wife and the lawyer meet with Trump, the Trump team, and kind of talk about it. He is a political prisoner, if you will, in Venezuela. And he's not wanting to overthrow the government, but he wants peace. He wants to go back to where the country wasn't so destroyed as it is. Right after that talk with Trump, apparently her husband goes missing.
That's not good.
And then reports have it that he's in the hospital on life support.
Okay. Sounds like an assault or something.
Sounds like something really... It's ironic that it went down right after the meeting with Trump. I don't know if there's any correlation to that, but that's what it's being reported.
Maybe Trump beat him up.
It's possible. They blame Trump for just about everything else.
You saw what he did to Vince McMahon.
Yes. That was a clothesline. Yeah, that was a good clothesline. So, and the government has now responded to these reports and have shown pictures of him and said, look, he's still alive.
Okay.
You know, just like the Chinaman in Tiananmen Square.
Was he, though?
They say he's all in good health and good hands.
Well, as long as they tell you that, that's always good peace of mind.
All right. So the wife is protesting and she's screaming. She's rejecting the bizarre proof of life as fake. And she says the only way that I'll believe he's alive is if I can meet with him.
Why couldn't it's his wife? Why couldn't she meet with him?
He's being taken care of. He's
undisclosed location.
He's getting bandaged up.
Well, what does that have anything to do with the wife not being able to see him?
Well, the doctors say he's got to be in a clean environment. I don't know.
So put a see-through curtain or whatever.
Right, and they're not doing it. They're not doing it. The bus driver who runs the country in the ground is not doing it.
I thought he was a garbage man. Is he a bus driver?
Garbage?
I don't know. Maybe he's a garbage bus driver.
Oh, maybe. So this article from, I always see the Wall Street Journal, WSJ, and I always think of SJW.
Oh, I know.
Because it's
same letters. It's gotten to that point.
It's same letters. So the Wall Street Journal reports Venezuela is starving. Once Latin America's richest country, Venezuela can no longer feed its people, hobbled by nationalization of farms. So the government took over all the farms, as well as price and currency control, reporting people in Venezuela lost an average of 19 pounds last year.
Yeah, that's pretty hungry.
They're reporting
that's the average.
That's the average. So the WSJ, the article.
Maybe that's why they're trying to turn America into communists, because we got a little bit of an obesity problem.
Chunky up here.
Yeah, that's a good diet plan. Communism.
That's funny you say that. They refer to it as the Maduro diet. That's the president of the country, Maduro. The Maduro diet.
Oh, no.
Starve your people.
Oh. Ouch.
So the SJW, the WSJ goes through this entire article showing pictures of and telling stories of children dying because they can't get to the hospital in time. They reported on one man had a pig farm that his father started in the 1970s. His pigs are down. They used to weigh 220 pounds when they took them to market. Now they're 150 pounds to market. He's got half as many pigs. He can't afford to feed his pigs. He's talking about leaving, as well as everybody else in his family, just leaving. And he said it's price control that's ruined his business. He needs to make, and it was like $2 a pound on his pigs, or $1.17 a pound on his pigs. He needs to make that.
Okay.
At least to stay afloat. The government says you can't sell it for more than 75 cents a pound.
Ooh, so pretty much the more he works, the more he loses.
Correct. And he can't sustain it. Other business owners. So this article is talking about all the problems in Venezuela, all these different stories. Business owner, construction guy, out of business, selling off furniture and things just to eat and live. They're talking about the inflation reaching 700% by next year, yada, yada, yada. All the things that we know that socialism, communism does. It destroys. Well, the Wall Street Journal doesn't, the entire article doesn't even discuss why this is happening.
They
told all these different stories about children dying and businesses going under and
I haven't read the article, but I can tell you right now.
C'est la vie.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you right now that in order to feed people, you need somebody to raise and bring up, let's say, pigs for bacon or whatever,
right,
or for pork. And, we live in Porkopolis over here, so we know a little bit about it. You got to be able to sell it for a certain amount, and you need to be able to determine that price. And that's what you do in capitalism. In socialism, it's So in let's just call it what it is. In communism, you have these leaders who got to power by using the populist message of greedy rich people are ruining everyone's lives because they're greedy and they're hoarding all the money and they're earning all the money and they're keeping it away from everybody else so that they can't have money. And that's the kind of populist message that your communist uses to gain power. Once they get in there, their sole focus is that greedy pig farmer is gouging all the people by selling meat from a pig at such a high price that he's going to get fat and happy with all of that money, and he's going to hoard it, and he's gouging everybody. He's charging too much. And that's why everybody's starving. They're starving because they can't afford the pig. They can't afford the pork and the bacon and all that kind of stuff. And if it was just less money, they could afford it and they wouldn't be so broke and hungry.
Problem is, they don't think one step further. How much does that farmer need to stay afloat?
It's backwards. It's totally backwards. Right. In capitalism, it starts from the beginning, and we talked about this before. John Locke talked about how it's all about labor, and everything has value in property and labor, and it starts at the very beginning. If an acorn falls off of a tree onto the forest floor, there's no value. No, there's the acorn has value because you can eat it or whatever. But it's just laying in the forest. It's free for everybody. That is a free acorn.
Right.
There's no property assigned to that acorn to any person or anything like that. But if I go around and I gather up a couple hundred acorns and put them in a satchel,
and you put in your labor, your time, your effort into doing that.
It took time and work and labor to do that. Now that satchel of free acorns now has labor assigned to it or attached to it. There's labor attached to those acorns, and that labor was my labor. So now there's a property of a satchel of acorns that's my property, and it has a value to it equal to my labor. And if I transport that to market, there's also the time and effort and work that it took to transport that to market. And when I sell it, the people that are paying me for the acorns shouldn't be looking at me like, oh, look at him trying to take money for acorns that he gathered up in the forest for free. He didn't pay any money for those.
You know what that is?
What is that?
That's projection of guilt, of lack of personal responsibility.
Because they didn't go and do the work to gather up the acorns.
In Mexico, Southern California, everyone has fences. Every house is fenced off. Okay. All windows have bars on the windows. People are dying because they can't get out of their house. House fires. That's true. Because barred windows.
Wow.
Barred windows. Okay. Gotta have it.
All right.
So your place is fenced off. If you leave your gate open.
By the way, I lived there. I was stationed in Yuma, Arizona, and Yuma, if you look at the neighborhoods in Yuma, they're just like Southern California. They're set up the same way. When Brian says fences, all quote unquote fences in every single yard, they're cinder block walls.
Yeah.
They literally build anywhere from 6, 7, or 8 foot high cinder block walls everywhere. Every yard is walled in.
Right. Everybody.
Amazing.
And so they have it was big money to build custom walls. And that's what I did out in LA. I would weld up iron and make a track across their driveway and install an electric automatic gate opener.
Okay, so you could drive up
in different fashions, different styles. Right. Well, if you leave your gate open by accident, people walking down the street will walk into your yard and start picking fruit off your trees.
Which, by the way, if you're not from that area, everybody has like an orange or a lemon tree or like that's
avocado tree.
Yeah, those kind of trees grow there.
So my mother-in-law, who lived in SoCal, had left her gate open, and another Hispanic descent woman, maybe from South America of sorts, just walked in with a bag and started picking her oranges off the tree. She's like, "What are you doing?" And the woman said, "This is God's trees. You don't own these. These are for God." And ran off with the oranges.
Yeah, see, that's social justice warrior / liberal / communist / they don't understand that tree was planted there. You had to do a lot of work to get it to grow up properly. I mean, you could leave it alone, but for it to grow up fast and healthy, you do some pruning and you fertilize it and you water it. If you let it go without water too long, it could absolutely die in Southern California.
Right.
They have long droughts there.
Desert.
So you have to water your plants, and that's all work. And this is years and years and years of work. But anyway, so yeah, that is how capitalism was developed, largely from, or I should say, the philosophy of capitalism was really well defined by John Locke, and he started from there, from the beginning, where you have man in nature without anything else. Just what happens when you have a man trying to feed himself in nature? That's where it starts. With communism, they went backwards. They were like, look at all these people. And there's all this, like they go to the market and the reason they're poor is because the stuff they have to buy is too expensive. And by the time they're done buying the food for the week, they're broke. They have no more money. And it's because these greedy farmers and these greedy manufacturers, look at these fat cats with their cigars.
And people wanting to get elected in the political and the government realm will play on those that are less fortunate, those that are ignorant in the sense that they don't understand what we're talking about. The politicians will play on them so that they can get into power.
Right.
Then they'll pass rules and regulations and laws and they say, see, I'm trying to help you. Here's what happened. And it's not getting better. Here's what we need. All of it needs to be nationalized.
Well, it needs to be completely regulated, run, and all the above. If you look at Marx and Engels' Communist Manifesto, it's all about the government owning the means of production. He'll call it the people. It's the little people. The people own it. But what is the collection of people? It's the government.
Right. So check this out. I think it was Mary Lou had asked a question and had said, did the article, Vanessa said, did the article even say the word socialism? And I started thinking it didn't. And I was taken back by that because I was waiting for the article from Wall Street Journal, who's reporting on Venezuela starving and falling apart and all these stories. And I mentioned the story about California and people walking and stealing fruit because in Venezuela, people are stealing crops. They're going out of the city because there's no food and they're raiding crops in the middle of the night just to eat. Okay. So the Wall Street Journal never said one thing about socialism. They didn't blame anybody or any specific thing. They just reported on the woes. So while we were talking, I started thinking about this. They called it nationalization.
Okay.
And maybe it's a stretch, but you know how they hate on nationalism?
Okay, yeah.
Is there a reason why they don't bring up socialism and call it nationalization?
Were they blaming nationalization?
Yes.
It's because they were being isolated from the rest of the world? I mean, I will tell you this.
Nationalism in the sense that the government takes over everything. They take over all businesses.
That's called communism.
Well, they called it nationalization. They didn't call it communism or socialism. They called it nationalization.
I think that author might... I mean, there's a lot of authors out there. They know everything. They know they've been properly educated. They know this stuff, and they're purposely misrepresenting it because they're liars and they're propagandists and they're communists themselves. But if he called this nationalizing,
yes, nationalizing, not socialism, not communism.
It almost sounds like he doesn't really know what it is he's talking about, because that just sounds weird,
right?
Like. Nationalized. Yeah, I don't get it. I really don't get
so
that.
I'm just thinking that maybe he's doing that with an agenda, and his agenda is
to not ever say the word socialism or communism.
Right. And the folks like Trump or folks like us that want to we want to promote nationalism.
So you just looked up the word. I think maybe he was right. I never knew that this is. I've never used this word to describe this, but go ahead.
The transfer.
This is the definition of nationalism.
Nationalization. The transfer of a major branch of industry or commerce from a private to state ownership or control.
Okay, so he was describing it right.
Correct.
Which is so communism is by definition the nationalization of all industries.
Right.
That's what communism is.
Correct.
Okay. And we've talked about the road from socialism to communism. And based on that definition, it sounds to me like a better way to describe it is socialism is the nationalism of what?
Not nationalism.
Nationalization. Okay.
Because nationalism, patriotic feeling, principles, or efforts.
Yeah. So we're nationalists.
Extreme form of this, especially marked by.
But we're not nationalismists.
No. I'm just saying. I think that when she asked me if did they ever say socialism? No. They just blamed. They didn't blame the government, and they didn't blame the ruler or dictator.
Well, they are indirectly.
Indirectly, they did.
Right, by saying that it was nationalization.
Somebody did some nationalization here. They did it.
Somebody did.
Who did it?
Somebody.
You know, those people.
Some people did.
Right.
Some people did. I don't know who they were, but some people did that.
So
there was the nationalization of industry.
Right.
So socialism describes when an industry gets nationalized, whatever.
Right.
And communism is when the last industry that they've all been nationalized.
Correct.
Okay.
And the New York Times opinion piece.
Yeah.
Folks, my head is exploding this week. New York Times, New York Slimes opinion piece. I couldn't even read the article after this title. I'm a title guy. If you don't know me, I'm easily trolled by Matt Drudge and his titles. I saw this title. I had to click to verify that the opinion piece happened. Here's the title. Communism once gave ordinary Americans a sense of their own humanity.
Could you repeat that?
This New York Times opinion piece. Communism once gave ordinary Americans a sense of their own humanity.
How? That begs the question. How? What is he talking about? How? He needs to go further than that. He can't just state that.
When he probably did with an entire article that I couldn't read.
Why not?
Because it was in Russian.
I'm illiterate.
It was in Russian.
It was. Oh, of course.
He's speaking to his comrades.
Oh my gosh! Did you hear about Jack Posobiec trolling somebody that was asking for an interview?
No.
Somebody asked Jack Posobiec if he wanted to give a statement on his connection to Russia.
Right, because apparently he's a Russian. Oligarchy. He's part of the oligarchy.
They wanted him to give a statement.
Okay.
He replied to them with an entire statement fully in Russian.
No.
Yes, in Russian.
That is hysterical.
And the guy got back and said...
You know why? You know how he could do this. You know how he could do this.
His fiancé.
His fiancé.
Right. His fiancé is Russian, which is just juicy as all get out for the mainstream media and the liberals.
And she's not his former high school teacher.
Right.
And Vanessa said that the Macron had a relationship with this teacher when it started when he was 9. I don't know that. No. I don't know anything about that.
Oh,
but if you're on the message board,
I might 16.
Yeah, I thought it was 16 too.
9?
That's what she said.
This woman's got a problem.
Well, look at her now, though. And I think Sam said she's like 20 some years older than him.
Oh, more than that.
Yeah.
Like 20,
like 23, 26, 20 something.
28 years older than him. I think she's 28 years older than him.
Okay. So anyways, back to Jack Posobiec.
Yeah.
Replied in Russian.
Totally in Russian.
That's hysterical.
And so this reporter was like not amused at all but proceeded to question about, and he said, look, Jack has a Russian fiance, and apparently she is signed up in a Russian social network.
Okay, and sorry, folks, if you don't know what we're talking about, the election in France, Jack Posobiec reported on the election in Macron and Le Pen, and the leaks of his emails, and the media in France claims that Jack is a Russian operative.
Right. And so he initially just said, no, I don't know. I've never talked to any Russian people or anything like that. And so finally they said, well, can you comment on this account, this Russian social media account? And they sent a link to him of his Russian social media account. And he's like, well, yeah, I use that to follow my wife or my fiance, because for her in Russia, they have a Russia social media, kind of like a Facebook.
Right.
And so he got on that to follow her. Okay. So they responded to him, well, are you involved in any kind of intelligence, people over there in Russia? And he responded by saying that for him, that would be like asking somebody if they are involved with the CIA because they have a Facebook account. And it took me a minute for that to sink in, but it's true. The Russian social network account is part of their social network, okay?
Right.
He got on that so he could follow his fiancée, right?
Right.
And now they're like, oh, you are so connected to the Russian government, Russian intelligence, and all this. That would be like if a Russian signed up for Facebook and all of the people in Russia said, whoa, you said that you were not highly connected to the CIA and the FBI and the president. But what is with this Facebook account? Seriously.
Oh, man.
Seriously. It's just ridiculous.
So Carlos on the message board said that Skeletor.
Who's Skeletor?
Macron's wife.
Oh, gosh, that's rough. She looks like a catcher's mitt from 1919.
Yeah, 1919 leather catcher's mitt. Now, she's 24 years old, his senior, and at the current time, she's 64 years old to his 39.
No, not that much.
Yeah, she's 64, he's 39. They've been married.
That's a mate.
Since 07.
So he's in his 30s and she's in her 60s?
He's the youngest president of France ever. He's 39.
He's younger than us.
Yeah, yes, they met in 92 when he was in a young high school. I don't think it was 9. I think it was early teens.
Yeah, like
some of the reports.
The report I heard was 16.
This one's saying 15. Telegraph.co.uk 15.
Why would somebody say 9 though? Do they have same teachers?
She said she heard it on a news station. I asked her about it.
See, that wouldn't happen in America because in America you almost never keep your same teacher past 1 year. You have your teacher for 1 year. That's it. Very rarely would you have the same teacher for more than one grade. Very rarely.
Right. So Carla said Stefan Molyneux, who we absolutely adore, love, listen to his stuff all the time, said that he did a superb takedown of Macron, said he was 15. She was married at the time with 3 children.
Oh, that's even worse. He's a homewrecker.
Yeah. And the article from the UK Telegraph says that they got married in 07. They met in 92 and got married in 07.
You know, as soon as that news came out, there were people all over the place. Trump supporters and everything saying.
And Vanessa says, not surprising, Hollywood loves pedophiles. Pizzagate, anyone? Oh, no, that's DC. Well, Hollywood too, whatever.
Yeah, are you kidding me? Forget Pizzagate. Hollywood's just got Audition Gate.
Oh, man.
with the kids and all that.
Carrie watched this documentary.
With Corey Feldman.
The Corey.
Yeah, and oh my God.
Corey Feldman could fight it off, but Corey Haim couldn't.
Nope. It's Haim.
Well,
Haim.
He's gone now. God rest his soul. The torture's over.
Yeah,
dude, he was on that. Reality TV show. Say, please, somebody give me a job. I just want to act again. I'm like,
so painful.
Dude, you're doing method acting right now.
Yeah, he should get an Oscar for that.
Wow.
Posthumous.
Yeah.
Posthumous.
So sad. So anyway, back just to wrap up Venezuela and the insanity of suing. We just touched on the French elections, the first hour, the second hour, wrapping up this with the implosion of Venezuela. And we're speaking about Venezuela because the ideologies that have been instilled in this country was so wealthy, successful, thriving until 1999, when the people of Venezuela were lied to.
Look what they're going to do to the... you're in Venezuela. Go, keep going.
Good God, man.
I'm sorry.
The ADD's kicking in.
I know, but somebody sent a picture of the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, let's see. Viva la Eiffel. Oh, man. They changed it to a Middle Eastern looking
the
building.
Like the Taj Mahal.
Anyway, so Breitbart did an article. 10 most famous people who praised Venezuelans' descent into socialist hell.
Okay.
Number 1, MIT professor Noam Chomsky.
Okay.
You will know him as a communist enthusiast, a hater of America, who lives in America, and on the documentary that Dinesh D'Souza did, interviewed Noam Chomsky. And Norm said in the interview that he agrees that America should be bombed from within side.
That's not good.
Right. Okay, so Noam Chomsky, a professor at MIT, he argued that Chavez, Hugo, who's dead from cancer, blamed George Bush for giving him cancer, and once claimed on the floor of the UN at this podium and speaking to the UN, right as George Bush walked away, claimed he could smell sulfur.
Hugo Chavez? I thought that was the Iran.
Oh,
not Netanyahu. The one that's really hard to pronounce.
Mahmoud did a whack job.
Yes. Wow, you did that very well.
I love saying he's the one that said he smelled sulfur.
Yes, he's the one.
Well, Hugo blamed Bush for cancer. He got the cancer.
Right.
Anyway, so Noam Chomsky says that Hugo Chavez brought forward the historic liberation of Latin America, proving destructive to the rich oligarchy. So Noam Chomsky praising Hugo Chavez as pretty much a liberator of Latin America, which I didn't know they needed to be liberated. They seem to be pretty good, all right. Sean Penn? Sean Penn said he met with Hugo Chavez on numerous occasions.
I gotta correct myself. It was Hugo Chavez. It was 2006 on the floor of the UN.
Smelling the sulfur.
It was Chavez. I thought it was a whack job.
Mahmoud did a whack job. And the reason why I can say that so well is because I used to listen to Dennis Miller. He had a talk show out in California. We don't get it here.
And he would.
That was his name for Mahmoud Ahmadinejad.
Oh, okay.
He called him I did a whack job. Sean Penn claimed that he met with Hugo Chavez numerous occasions, describing him as a fascinating guy who did incredible things for the 80% of the people that are very poor there.
Why are there 80% of people that are very poor there?
After Chavez's death in 2013, Penn said that the United States lost a friend it never knew it had. Poor people around the world lost a champion.
That's the key to communism. You have to have poor people, which means that as long as you're either in control or trying to gain control, you have to create as many poor people as possible. If you can get the poor people up into the 80 to 90% range, your power stays forever. It's weird. It's a very strange phenomenon. It's because of how they lied to you and how, for whatever reason, people continue to believe the communists over and over. It takes many, many decades. Look what happened in the Soviet Union. While they were standing in bread lines, they would have to get in line at the butt crack of dawn in order to get their family fed before the end of the day, where they'd have to wake up really early to get out there and stand in a bread line again for the next day. And you had to hope and pray that they didn't run out of food before you got to the front of the line.
Because what would happen then? You just wouldn't eat.
Yeah, you'd have to just go home and try the next day.
Oh,
yeah, that was the daily life of poor people in the Soviet Union. These people would keep the Soviet Union in power, or the communists in power, and communism reigned supreme, and it took them, 90 years or something like that to finally get rid of the daggone
insanity.
Yeah.
So your friend and mine, maybe not really friends of ours, Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
Oliver Stone, quote, "I mourn a great hero to the majority of his people and to those who struggle throughout the world for a place. Hated by the entrenched classes, Hugo Chavez will live forever in history." I don't know if he put that kind of emotion in it, but,
Chavez will live forever in history.
Yeah, as destroying a very vibrant, thriving country. And you're asking me, they had free elections and they voted him in. Did you folks know that he used executive order to circumvent the government so that he could stay in power? Something that I talked about on the show with Carrie to a great extent back when Obama, who we thought would never leave.
Oh, it was
might use.
It was one of the main reasons we started this show. He was putting together, and we've talked about this before, the genesis of Smyth Radio. Somehow we found out through some good reporting from somebody that he was signing hundreds and hundreds of executive orders where each individual one seemed menacing, seemed problematic, until you look at them all together, like looking at the forest for the trees.
Right.
And you started to realize that this looks an awful lot like a giant plan to remain in power forever by abolishing the presidency and having all the executive orders in place to be able to pull it off successfully.
He had no respect or regard for the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, and nobody in political power whatsoever on the left or the right would stop Obama from doing whatever he wanted.
No.
That was the scary part.
Yep. That was very, very scary.
The next on the list, Jesse Jackson. And folks, I'm reading these names off on purpose so that you can get to know the names of these individuals, and when you hear them again supporting certain things like Barbara Streisand, Barbara Streisand's in the news. You don't need to tell me. She's in love with Hillary and the Clintons. I know that. So when you hear these names, you need to remember who these people are and it'll give you insight to what their agenda is. Once again, you know this guy, Michael Moore. Michael, I can't stop eating more.
By the way, Michael Moore probably had a huge part in getting Trump elected.
Yeah. He had a crush on Hugo Chavez, too. And he got angry that he had such a huge part in getting Trump elected.
Yeah, because it wasn't intended. He was trying to make almost like a parody speech, and it just didn't come off right.
No.
It sounded like he was telling people that they need to wake up and vote for Trump.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering why people wanted to vote for Trump, this is why. The problem is his reasoning for why people were voting for Trump was widely accepted by everybody, including people that weren't sure who to vote for. And it was like Michael Moore was giving them the reason, like shoving them over the fence. They were on the fence. They didn't know which way to go. Michael Moore shoved them in the direction of Trump, for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sweet. Carlos on the chat line says, saw a documentary about Chavez's family and how they stolen massive amounts of land and more, makes the Clinton crime syndicate seem like the little sisters of the poor by comparison.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because this is a truism about socialism that everybody should always know and always keep on the top of their head so that when they get a chance to talk about communism, they can bring this up. Communism is a system that elites and the leaders and these powerful people can use that enable them to use citizens of an entire nation to create a big giant, like a governmental palace for them. It's like, this is how you do it. How do you keep the people under your thumb while they all keep you in power? Communism is the system to do that. So if you're the type of person that would be a leader of a communist country and think that is the best way to live your life, you're also probably going to be the type of person that's going to be stealing from everywhere, because communism is their tool for stealing from the people. And it's like that with every communist regime. So Soviet premiers and all of his inner circle, they were doing
USSR.
fine.
USSR, right.
They were doing fine. You think that Castro and his family were struggling? They were probably living the life.
When he died, there were reports about how much his family was worth. Millions and millions of dollars.
And the people were starving. And it wasn't that they were necessarily stealing from the people. It's just the system works that way, where he takes all the labor and the wealth and the money from all the people of the entire country. It starts in the centralized government. From there, he doles out money where he sees fit. But in the meantime, all the rest of the money is in his control. So he's going to live like the richest king you could ever imagine.
And speaking about Castro, Vanessa said that her mom fled from Cuba with her parents legally when she was 8 years old, and they celebrated Castro's death. Fidel, burn in hell.
Wow.
So, and I know people that certainly in Florida there were marches in the streets and parades on the death of Fidel. So Michael Moore, he said, Hugo Chavez declared the oil belongs to the people. He used the oil money to eliminate 75% of extreme poverty, provide free health and education for all.
Well, he didn't do a very good job.
Yes. And when you have the elites, the Hollywood elites champion out these words and saying these things and literally fake news, lying to the people because they think that they'll maintain their power somehow in this way. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Michael Moore is a very screwed up individual.
Right. Definitely.
Jeremy Corbyn. I didn't know. I mean, I've heard his name before. I wasn't quite sure he was. He's the British Labour Party leader who may one day become Prime Minister of Britain. He said, thanks, Hugo Chavez, for showing that the poor matter and wealth can be shared. He made massive contributions to Venezuela and a very wide world.
It's interesting. I'm starting to see a theme where poor people are so important, and they're so important.
If you don't have them,
they're the ones that we claim that we're going to give all the power to. So we need to make sure that we make that voting block as big as possible.
Yeah, you got to. And so Diego Maradona, he's an Argentinian soccer star. He said, I believe in Chavez. I'm a Chavista. Everything Fidel does, everything Chavez does for me is best.
Okay. That is so bad. So bad.
I mean,
wow.
Do they not? Well, I mean, the rich and famous, I don't know. They indoctrinated.
Well, he's a communist. And, it's all about ideologies. Let me look at it our way. If somebody talks about something that sounds pro-capitalism, we're going to be fans of them. We're going to be very vocal in support of that person. Well, this guy knows that these people are complete Marxists. And so why would he support them and praise them? Because he's a Marxist too. The problem is that it's a failed system that oppresses people. It oppresses freedoms. There's no liberty involved in communism. It's just horrible.
Vanessa said maybe it's rich guilt, which, she has a point there. And I've said this before about Hollywood elites. The people in Hollywood that I've known, I've seen, I've been in that industry, They literally have to make it up in their mind as to why they're getting paid $20 million to speak in front of a camera.
Right, or just act or whatever.
Something. They have to come up with a reason and make it up with them. That's why a lot of them, when they get older, man, they go crazy because they can't keep up this charade, this facade to keep it up.
They knew they were fake from day one, and now it's like full circle. They can't get work and they freak out.
Right. Naomi Campbell in 2000.
Who's also...
Yes. In 2007, she said, I've been here for 24 hours. I'm amazed to see the love and the encouragement for the social programs that you have here for women and children in Venezuela.
Well, that's all good to have social programs. And that's the thing about us.
For the women and the children.
Right. It's always about the women and children.
Not about guys. Don't help no guy.
Well, no, and what does that mean? Women and children need social programs. What is that? That is, instead of a nuclear family...
A daddy.
So now the government becomes the husband and daddy.
Right.
Okay.
The breadwinner, if you will.
Right, and here's the thing. In capitalism, the social program for women and children is jobs for the husband. That's the social program.
Word for the day, J-O-B.
There you go. Man, you got to have that on cue. The word for today is job. J-O-B.
Yeah. So this is the wrong direction, but this is them in their propaganda. And we've said this before, communism, USSR, their foothold of landing in the Americas was Cuba and spread through South America with the hopes and the belief that they would come into America, Northern America, and literally take over the Americas with communism. Is it there?
You listen to me. I want you to get your ass up today, go out and look for a job. The word today is job. J-O-B. You hear me? Yeah. Go look for a job today. I'm not kidding.
J-O-B. Thank you for that clip from Friday.
J-O-B.
The first Friday movie was the best. The rest of them, they just couldn't hold water.
The rest of them? Is there more than one other?
Yeah, there's like 3.
Oh, I didn't see either of them.
Next Friday.
Which I won't see.
And then the Friday after that. I don't know. They came up with the third one.
I think it's the Friday after that.
It might be.
Oh,
might
no.
be. So, I believe it was Mary Lou who said Danny Glover. And ding, ding, ding. She is correct. Danny Glover is on the list. He makes the list at number 9. Danny Glover. Some interesting facts you may never have heard of and media will not report on. Danny Glover, the star of the movies with Mel Gibson, Die Hard.
Mm-hmm.
Die Hard.
Yeah.
Supported Chavez after meeting with him in 2006. Hugo Chavez gave Danny Glover $18 million.
What?
To direct a film on the Haitian Revolution. It was never released. In 2014, Glover also gave a speech next to Nicolas Maduro, the new president.
Okay.
Asking him to continue Chavez's vision of a participatory democracy, one involving all citizens, while calling his government the stewards of this democracy.
That sounds like America.
America, come to save
what's
world,
wrong?
yeah.
So does he have a problem with the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights?
Apparently, Glover thinks that what is going on in Venezuela is much, much better than what's going on here.
It has anything to do with what he said?
No, because it seems like he's talking about America.
It sounds like it.
Not Venezuela.
Right. I don't know. Is he insane?
Well, again, I will revert to my theory that Hollywood elites, they turn insane because they make up who they are.
Okay.
For the money they get paid.
All right.
You know, Paul Newman even said one time towards the end of his death, Paul Newman said, it's just a shame what we get paid to do. Yeah, dude.
Then give it away.
He was a wait.
Do it the right way. Give all of your money except for maybe $50,000 a year. That's what you get to live on. All the rest of it, give it to all kinds of different philanthropies.
All right. And I will give Paul Newman nods, the lib that he is. I never knew that until he got older. That his son that committed suicide, died, drug overdose, something of that nature, at a young age in his 20s, just wrecked his life. He started the Newman brand that gives all the proceeds away to...
And it's actually pretty good. It's like salad dressings.
I've been wanting to try the wine. They've got a wine.
Oh, they have a wine?
They have a wine now. I've been wanting to try that. Maybe one day.
I've been drinking the Coppola.
Yeah.
Francis Ford.
Yeah, when I run into money, when I get rich,
when you trip and you fall, you face first right into a big pile of hundreds.
Yeah. Yeah, the first thing I do is...
It's not that expensive. It just happens to be about twice as expensive as like a regular bottle of wine.
And last on the list, Joseph Stiglitz.
What? Stalin? No.
Stiglitz.
Stiglitz.
Just like Chiclets.
Okay.
Chiclets the gum. Stiglitz.
What is he?
He's a recipient of the Nobel Laureate.
Okay.
Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez appears to have had success in bringing health and education to the people in the poor neighborhoods of Caracas. Hell's bells.
Didn't America bring education to poor people in their country?
No. You're not doing it right. Carlos on the message board said Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said he will expand the number of civilians involved in armed militias, providing guns to as many as 400,000 loyalists. Yes, that was a couple of weeks ago. He said that in a country where guns are illegal to own, he will expand the militia to 400,000. I think the reports now of the rioting and the protesting that's been going on for a month now.
Yeah, people are dying in those things.
I think there's 39 dead by the government who's shooting real bullets at the people.
Okay, which you have to do in communism. That just comes with the territory. You got to do what you got to do.
Right.
That's what happens.
Yeah, so Venezuelan president arming supporters after campaigning for years to take citizens' guns away. Yeah, that's true, Carlos. Second Amendment, no, doesn't matter out there. And he's giving credit to Fox News and Daily Wire. Well, there you go. Won't see that on CNN. And the WSJ report that I read earlier, the Wall Street Journal, no, nothing to do about Second Amendment, nothing to do about the government takeover.
Nothing of that. Or the people being killed in the riots and all that. No. And you're listening to Smyth Radio into the third hour.
Yeah.
Third final hour of Smyth Radio.
Heartbreak of Venezuela, gone the wrong way. People been lied to. Heartbreak of France. Gone the wrong way. A lot of people lied to. They're believing the wrong people. Listen to this. We've got two countries that are going supernova. The French media has convinced the people, as well as the government and the free handouts, that you need to vote for the wrong guy. And then you've got Venezuela, who now has an installed dictator because the people were lied to by the media and the global elites, if you will. So that's what we do here in America. This is New News Media. This is Smyth Radio. You can find us on iHeartRadio.com. I've made a short link for you. Go iHeart.smithradio.com. If you want to be a part of the show, you got something to add to it, and you want to call in line 513-888-1538. I've got the line on the line. Got the hook on the line. So we just wrapped up talking about the French election, how France has gone supernova, and now we have Venezuela falling apart. So look for these socialist regimes. Look for the people who are praising, and you've got to know history, and you've got to talk to other people about what capitalism is, what socialism is, and how it leads to communism. Plug them into Smyth Radio. We'll tell them. We'd love to do this. Do this 3 hours every Sunday evening. And for the third hour, the big hour, we are talking about none other than Donald J. Trump.
Oh, I thought it was somebody else. Donald J. Johnson.
Donald J. Trump making America great again. And speaking of, this is just real quick off top, the jobs report for April was out last week.
Okay.
Did you hear about that?
I did not hear the details.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Obama, Donald Trump has been able to raise the confidence index in businesses, apparently. Added 211,000 jobs in April versus 185,000 that was expected. The unemployment rate, which we've railed against here, I don't agree with the unemployment rate. It's awful, awful, awful. But I am going to report the unemployment rate is down to 4.4%.
And as soon as I heard that, I did hear that. I said, what are we measuring here? There was 95 million people out of work.
Yeah, that's actually down.
I'm
down.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's down. I want to hear those numbers.
The participation rate.
Yeah, because the 4 some odd % that was under Obama was fake. Completely fake. Not even close. And so when you say, ooh, it dropped. I didn't even believe you. The premise is flawed. If he came out and said unemployment is at 15% instead of 4%, 15%, I would say awesome. It probably has dropped quite a bit from the 25% that it was before, the real percentage. So yeah, this whole 4% thing, I can't measure anything that Trump does compared to what Obama did using those fake statistics.
Right. No.
So,
as we're moving on, I just have to say this because it's pretty funny. Carlos said he'd like to take a moment before we begin the third hour.
Yeah.
And congratulate Angela Merkel on her successful campaign to become president of France.
Wait, what? I am so confused right now.
He wants to take a moment. Let's congratulate Angela Merkel, the president of Germany.
Germany, yeah.
The chancellor,
yeah.
Germany, of becoming the first woman to successfully be president of 2 countries.
Okay.
France and Germany.
For Germany?
For Germany. Make it one country.
Germany.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow. So, no, that's a good one. Wow.
Or Jantz.
To Jantz. Because she is very, very tightly connected to macaroni. He's just a noodle. He's a noodle head.
Macron.
So, yes, and on the message, if you want to be a part of the show, listen to us live every Sunday night, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join the message chat, the chat board. And Mary Lou said, Trump signed the religious freedom bill. Yes, he did. That is on the top of my list of stuff. National Day of Prayer.
Okay. When's that?
Oh, it's already passed.
Did I pray?
Yeah, we pray every day. You're good.
Which day?
To pray Thursday.
No, which day was the
Thursday.
National Day?
Thursday.
Oh, Thursday.
President Trump marked the National Day of Prayer by signing an executive order aimed at boosting religious freedom by easing IRS restrictions.
I did hear that. I heard that news. That is awesome. Let's talk about that.
Against political activities by tax-exempt religious organizations, including churches, declaring no one should be censoring sermons. And he did this at the Rose Garden. So that was from, I think that was Fox News that wrote that.
I find this just great. This is great news because it's clear to me, first of all, what is it, from the 50s?
1956 was the Johnson Amendment.
Johnson Amendment. He was a senator at the time.
And 54. Sorry, 54.
54. He spearheaded, he wasn't the president yet, but he spearheaded this initiative as a Democrat, clearly an attempt to prevent Republicans from having any power, because it must have been figured out by Johnson and his colleagues that sermons, political sermons from the pulpit, were helping Republicans. And so they needed to take a dump all over the First Amendment. Seriously. I mean, it is that.
Well, here's what it says. That 1954, Congress passed the Johnson Amendment. Religious groups and other nonprofits have been prohibited from participating directly or indirectly in political campaigns at risk of losing their tax exemption.
Okay, so how long has the tax exemption been around? Ever since taxes were introduced? Well, that was less than a half century before that. So the problem isn't, why should we, do you see what happened here? You have the First Amendment, which is clear as a whistle. We have the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, freedom of press, and it's pretty much unabridged.
1913.
Right.
1913 was 501c3. Tax exempt.
Okay,
Yeah.
because taxes, income taxes started up at about that time. Before that time, there were no income taxes. They taxed other ways, like property taxes and whatnot. There were different ways of taxing. They bring up income tax, and all of a sudden, you have to start to you bring up this discussion. Well, what about churches? Well, we should tax exempt them. Well, what about if we have tax exemption? Should we make a statement on political speech? And at the time, they were like, nah, I guess we're good. So the whole time, from the time income taxes start, all the way up until the Johnson Amendment, you have this rub, this thing that's just not working, where you have people who are starting churches who are demanding, or maybe not churches, it could be any nonprofit, who then turn around and say, well, we're going to speak politically. We're going to try to push for a certain political party or a certain ideology or a certain individual person. And next thing you know, you got people starting to say, well, then we need to threaten the tax exemption status of these churches for doing this. And then finally the Johnson Amendment comes along and it gets passed. And for the next more than a half a century, we have limited freedom of speech, and it all comes back from that stupid income tax from 1913.
Which helped to stifle churches so that they couldn't speak up about different political and political parties that were rising up against the church, but the church can't say anything about it.
Right.
Don't talk about us Democrats. Don't talk about what we're doing.
Meanwhile, they can talk against the church.
And they do. They rail against Christians all the time.
So basically, you could make the argument that the income tax has been a threat to the Bill of Rights from day one. Flat out.
I agree 100%.
Look at the IRS scandal. That is a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment. Because the IRS scandal is where Obama went after conservative groups because of the he was trying to prevent them,
to stop them from talking, or stop them from creating groups and raising money,
right? And they ended up using that and expanding that, and ended up putting people on no-fly lists.
Well, and we found out once you get on a no-fly list, it takes an act of Congress to get off it.
Yeah, somebody went to the Bahamas who had been involved with some Tea Party group.
She was a wealthy business person.
Yeah. And she went to Bahamas for vacation.
Yeah.
And when she tried to come back, they were like, sorry, ma'am, you're on a no-fly list. You cannot go back to the States.
I live in America.
Yeah, she was stuck for a while.
And I think it was only because of her wealth that she accumulated, she was able to overcome that. But just for the average Joe like you and me.
Oh, we'd have been out.
I don't know how I'd get. Oh, I know how I'd get back.
So she had to lose a lot of money for that.
I wouldn't get back through Mexico. I'd go to Canada. Come back. Just walk across. We need a wall up there, too.
Anyway. So it seems like the IRS, the introduction of income tax, the Internal Revenue Service, and all this kind of stuff in the form that it is today is just not compatible with our Bill of Rights, and I think that we've made that argument pretty well. I'm glad that we're starting to restore it. We're allowing. It's going to go back and forth, because what's going to happen is that church is going to start getting really political, and also it's not permanent anyway because it's just an executive order. It needs to be written into law. As soon as the next president comes along, they're going to reverse that. Yeah.
So CNN's title for this, their article about this, Donald Trump's Big Bizarre Religious Day.
Big Bizarre Religious Day. Yes. That is so it's insulting. It's insulting to the office of the presidency of the United States.
It's hard to imagine President Donald Trump, a very rich man, envying the little sisters of the poor, an order of nuns who take the oath of chastity and poverty. But the president joked Thursday during the White House ceremony that the little sisters have something he deeply desires. Smart attorneys. Quote, "Do you mind if I use your lawyers?" Trump said with a grin as the nun in gray laughed. "I could use some good lawyers too." The Little Sisters are represented by Beck Fund, a nonprofit firm that focuses on religious liberty, who helped the nuns gain a key exemption from the Affordable Care Act. So CNN is trying to rip Trump a new one by talking to the nuns and saying they have good lawyers. He'd like good lawyers like that. They got great lawyers, apparently.
Yeah, but also Trump is one to have that charming banter with
Dude, they didn't like that at all. Trump's Big Bizarre Religious Day.
Why? Because he talks like a normal person and makes jokes?
Yeah. Just joking. And so in this article, they brought up all kinds of people from all over the spectrum, even other priests and other religious people. And a professor of religion brought him on, bashing Trump. This is awful. This does nothing. This is horrible. This is just a joke. Trump doesn't know what he's doing, just on and on and on. I'm like, wow. Man, they're really ripping him on this one. So if it's that awful, what does it do? Well, the order, and this is CNN, the order's most controversial section, the one that creates more controversy, directs the federal government not to take adverse action against any individual house or worship or other religious organization that speaks about political issues from a moral perspective. That's the most controversial, Carrie. CNN. Controversy.
I'll tell you, I think that priests should be encouraging people. Well, and here's another thing too. I think a priest is going to church on Sunday is a good time to hear how the Word of God in the Bible for the day, the teachings of that week in that Sunday Mass applies to things that are important in everybody's lives. A lot of the time includes politics, and I think it should be incorporated in the sermon.
Remember this eternal truth. Freedom is not a gift from government. Freedom is a gift from God.
When was the last time you ever heard a president of the United States say that?
It's probably been a long time. It's been a long time.
That's why they hate him, by the way, folks. That's why they hate him. I don't know that he's a devout Christian. I don't know that he goes to church. I don't know that he does any of that stuff. However, I do know that he is championing for the little people, us, the people, championing our ability to practice our religion freely. And obviously he knows. He went on in his speech to talk about the founding fathers. The founding fathers knew that that our freedoms come from God. He went on and expanded upon that. And that's what it's all about. And it's just so refreshing to hear the President of the United States stand up championing the little people and saying that the government, and that's the other thing, folks. As we're talking about all of these governments, all these different ideologies, all these isms, socialism, communism, capitalism, America, the American exceptionalism is not that we're not better than anybody. We're not this, we're not that. It's that we are the exception to the rule. The rule for all of human existence was that people serve the master. People serve the government, the dictator, the tyrant, the man in chief, the despot, whatever it is. People serve that. In America, we were founded on the principle that the government serves the people. First time in all of human history. That's what makes us the exception to the rule. That's when we kind of got it right. We got to save it. We got to keep explaining this, talking about this, and saving it. Teaching our children and telling our children to teach children.
Well, we have a long way to go because of the fact that it seems like there's this giant group of people in America who believe that the government is our nannies.
Right.
And that they have to take care of us. And that's the whole thing with the health care and just all this stuff, all the government programs. And are we going to talk about the new health care thing that passed?
It passed the Congress and waiting on the Senate.
Right. So it has a long way to go. A lot of people got really excited. They think that Obamacare is repealed and that we have something new when we don't.
Right.
It has a long way to go because of the fact that there's so many senators, many of which are Republicans in name only.
You know, it's a shame. Rand Paul is railing against this so hard that I'm just amazed that he wasn't more involved in it if he has so much hate for it.
Well, do you know why?
No, tell me.
Okay, so here's the thing about, there are members of the Freedom Caucus that are coming around and getting a little bit more flexible. But the Freedom Caucus is kind of like this, I call them theoretical constitutionists. Have you ever heard that one? I've brought that one up. So a theoretical constitutionist is somebody who reads the Constitution almost like a computer program. And each line has to be followed to the letter, if you're a real constitutionist, you'd be like, that's right. You don't deviate from any of that, which you shouldn't. That's true. But here's the problem. We have fallen far from that tree.
So far.
We have fallen very far from that tree. So all these theoretical constitutionists who are like, no, it's got to be done. There's a woman who writes a blog called Totally Unconstitutional. She's a very good writer. Her name's Anna Perez. And I recommend you follow her because you'll learn a lot. You'll become more aware of what the founders were thinking when they wrote the Constitution and what it would mean to have a truly free country where we have a very small limited federal government where the real government is more local and you have state rights and powers, and that the federal government is very limited. That being said, you got your Freedom Caucus who are your theoretical constitutionists. And they look at how far the country has fallen and how far it's gone. And any type of fix has to be totally 100% to the letter constitutional and conservative and all of the above. The problem is that in order to get to that point, you have to take baby steps. And your more moderate conservatives and constitutionalists will say, okay, let's just go in that direction. All right? If we can come out with legislation that gets us going in that direction, but it leaves some of the things that had us that were a part of us flying off the rails, just to at least move in the direction, let's do that. But theoretical constitutionists are like, no, we can't leave this, we can't do that because all of that is not constitutional. Here's the problem is, the alternative is to do nothing.
And that's what these Republicans are doing right now. They're attempting to do, if you don't do everything, I'm going to do nothing. It's all or none. Right. We can't play that game right now. We can't play the game all or none.
It won't work that way. And it's not just because all these other people are being unconstitutional. There's also the just the process of getting back to where America was supposed to be, constitutional and all that kind of stuff, is that the people, when it comes to healthcare, a lot of people have been involved in a system that may have been unconstitutional all this time, but it's their lives, it's their real lives, and they have to make these changes to the way they do business with their healthcare providers. The change can't be that dramatic.
Right.
It has to be little bits at a time until they get to a point where we are constitutional. So I think that that's the compromise that needs to be made. Now, historically, here's where they really fly off the tracks. Historically, whatever doesn't get done will never get done. That is a true statement. So let's say we make a compromise and instead of building the wall, we just build walls next to the cities.
Or instead of building the big giant concrete wall, we just build like a sort of
a giant metal wall.
It's metal. It's called a
Well, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second. So here's what happens historically. Okay, how about this? We'll start the wall at the cities where the problem is. As soon as we're done with that, we're going to come back and pass the legislation and the funding to get the rest of the wall in the rural areas built. Well, guess what that means? That means that maybe the wall gets built in those cities, but they will never come back and revisit it for the rest. That is historically true in our government. Right. Here's where it's different. Trump is our president now. And one thing we have learned that is a fact is that if he's starting it phase 1 and he's leaving phase 2 for later down the road, he will go back and revisit that. And he will go after phase 2. That is so new and so foreign to all these pundits these days.
They're not buying it. They're not buying it. They can't even believe it.
They call it a failure. They call it a failure if he leaves something in a phase 2, a second phase, that is to happen in 6 months from now. They call it a failure. They say it didn't get done, it doesn't get done, it won't get done. Why? Because they're on the old paradigm. But the new paradigm, the Trump presidency paradigm, this is where you do phase 1, and when it's time to revisit phase 2, you actually do it. You actually come back and revisit and actually do it. That's never happened in my lifetime.
I've never seen, never heard of it.
And I've been duped
because of politicians. They always promise, and they don't deliver. They don't deliver.
So here's my message to the Freedom Caucus and your Rand Pauls. Get going in the direction. Leave things in it that have to be left in for whatever reason that you hate, that you would even say is unconstitutional, that you got to sign your name on the dotted line because it got you, it gave you a bill that was much more in the direction of constitutionalism than not doing anything. And here's why. Because when Trump says in 6 months, in 4 months, in 2 months, we're going to revisit this and fix the things that you didn't like, that you had to sign in, and we're going to make it even better in phase 2. You've got to trust that it's actually going to happen because we're not dealing with the old school establishment politicians. We're dealing with Donald Trump, who's going to come back and actually freaking do it.
Right.
That's my message.
And look at his track record. He's done everything he said he's going to do. I'm like, he's not done everything. If he says he does it, he's going to do it.
Oh, the budget's a good example.
Isn't lied about.
He said we're coming back in September. We're going to make this happen. You watch. I'll put my money on the line. I'll bet anybody. Come September, there's going to be some headway made.
Yes.
They called what he did, the continuing resolution, the CR, they called that a huge loss. The Democrats were cheering because they think it's over. They think that by kicking the can down the road to September, that we're back to business as usual and that we'll never have a budget. Nothing's going to get paid for. The wall's not going to get paid for. 2020 is going to come along and Trump will not have built his wall or not even have started on or not even funded it. I guarantee you when September comes around, if they have any pushback on anything he wants to do on a budget, there's going to be hell to pay. Real hell. You watch. You mark my words, it's going to happen. And same thing with healthcare. Whatever they get done, It will probably include things that are like, whoa, we didn't sign up for this. This is only halfway. We can't go halfway. We got to go all the way. You watch. Whatever items are left in that you consider not really a very conservative healthcare system, he's going to revisit it. He's only leaving those in there so that we can get past what we can get past. And even Shabbat told us. Remember when we met with Shabbat?
Oh, yeah. Well,
he said, let's just get, maybe you only get 40% of what you want. And the other 60%'s, left alone or left unchanged or whatever. At least you got 40%, and then we can come back and revisit later. I almost chuckled.
You got something rather than nothing. Because if we don't do nothing, we stay with Obama. Don't care.
That's true. But here's the thing that made me chuckle. When I heard Shabbat said that, I wanted to say, come on, man. You know what it means when you don't get the thing. They don't revisit. They're not going to revisit.
I know. We both,
yeah, but
because we've never seen it.
But guess what? If we get 40% of it now, and Trump says, you know what? Okay, let me think here. We get 40%. We get this, these different items, but we're stuck with these items we don't want, the 60% that we don't want. We're stuck with that. Let's revisit this in 6 months or 4 months. He's not kidding.
Yes.
He's not kidding.
Part of the deal.
Yep.
You got to trust in Trump. This is Kellyanne Conway. What an incredible woman. I am so glad. Sacrifice of her family. She went ahead and took the position that she's got now with Trump. She originally said, I'm done with the campaign. I got to go home. She's got a young son and husband. And thank you, Kellyanne, for the sacrifice that you're making. Absolutely incredible. A voice of reason for sure. She was on the Hannity show being hosted. Who's the guy on the 5 on Fox?
Greg Gutfeld?
No, the body, the husky guy. Dude looks like he works out. Big dude.
Eric Erickson?
Yeah,
Eric Erickson?
Anyways, he was stepping in for Sean Hannity. This is Sean Hannity's show, but not Sean Hannity, but with Kellyanne Conway. Here's her take on what's going on with the medical issues.
And very important to this president. He has talked about that all through the campaign, all through the transition, and now as president, it's important to him. The Senate, as you know, will be writing a bill, or they will take up the House bill. That's up to Leader McConnell and the Senate. And Leader McConnell and the president are in regular communication about health care and everything else. The other thing is, let's not pretend and let's not forget, because the Democrats want people to forget and just to scare them, how we got to this place. 41 states saw deductibles increase. There's been an average of a 40% increase in people's premiums, 100% increase in some places. You have states now and counties, about a third of the counties in this country, all but 5 of the 99 counties in Iowa, that only have one provider. That's not choice, and that's not competition. And by the way, where the hell were those Democrats, when veterans were dying waiting for care? I didn't see them coming on TV with hosts that just sat there listening to them, and they're screed. When there were veterans dying for care who deserve better. This president 2 weeks ago signed the Veterans Choice Act. He expanded it so that if you're a veteran who cannot get timely quality care at a VA, you can access the private system.
Nice.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Eric Bowling.
Eric Erickson's the cuck.
Yes.
I knew it was Eric something. Eric Bowling, that's right. You called him like buff.
Dude is buff. Dude works out. I said I work out.
I did not even notice.
I wish I had his physique.
Bob Beckel works something out.
His shoulder and his arm with the drinks. Popping the pills.
Anyway, so now you're going to have a lawsuit against us.
He was drunk on the show, and they called him out on the show.
Yeah, I did see him slurring.
Bob Beckel was slurring, eyes falling asleep, and everybody on the show was like, Beckel, what is wrong? What are you on?
He had a 12 martini lunch.
Yeah. So no, that's Kellyanne Conway. Absolutely incredible. The great woman and championing Donald Trump's achievements, which the mainstream media is absolutely gone insane with Donald Trump coming out with this after his 100 days and saying that it's arbitrary number, it doesn't matter. I've done great things.
It is arbitrary.
But he has done some great things in the first 100 days. So it's incredible. I love how he's making a move on the Veterans Act that she was talking about. You didn't hear anything from Obama about that. Like he was he was probably at home laughing in the background. This veteran's dying. I got to get rid of him somehow.
Yikes.
No, I mean, how else was it?
VA was so bad.
He did nothing. It was scandalous.
VA? Yeah, the Phoenix VA was like something horrendous.
Yeah. So that was Kellyanne Conway on the medical and the healthcare. You've got to trust Trump. You've got to. And this whole medical healthcare thing kind of started to come off the rails, if you will. Did you hear Jimmy Kimmel? Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
Jimmy.
You looking for
Jimmy. Here's Jimmy. His opening monologue was a 13-minute rant.
Oh, we're not going to play 13 minutes, are we?
I'm going to play all of it twice.
Just in case you didn't hear it the first time. There are people tuning out right now.
No, yeah, definitely, Mary Lou. Glad that veterans are getting what we all deserve. Absolutely, you're right. I've been fortunate. Carrie's been fortunate. We got her health.
Yeah, we've been very healthy.
But let me tell you, some of those folks out there, and I know veterans that really do mental health, physical health, things like that. So you're absolutely right. But Jimmy Kimmel took to his show and was blasting on Trump. Well, first off, he started crying and sobbing because his son, when he was born, had some dysfunction.
He had a pre-existing condition.
Right. The baby was born pre-existing. And, what it was, when it came out of the mother's womb, it was pre-existing.
Right.
Okay,
right.
So God bless it. The baby was taken care of. The baby is fine and it's healthy, and we've moved on. That's great. So Jimmy Kimmel, emotional. And don't get me wrong. When my first child was born, the umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck, and they were having complications. The emergency C-section, maybe. And I could see the doctor with his thumbs. He's trying to get it off her neck. I'm like, let me get in there, man, you little weakling.
Is he being a weakling?
Yeah, like, I'll get that thing off of there. Well, anyways, not to get graphic. So it all worked out well. I was emotional. Because afterwards.
It's your child.
Yeah, when it was over with, it was my first child. When it was all over with, I was like, oh my goodness. Was it that close?
Was it?
Probably not. Looking back, I got 3 now.
So so the first time. Wait a minute. So is this Jimmy Kimmel's first child?
I don't know, but he was crying and emotional on a show. And this is the 43 seconds that I'll play of the 13 minutes.
Oh, okay.
43 seconds, Jimmy Kimmel. This kind of sums up Jimmy Kimmel, the rant, the Obamacare, and how the media is going so hardcore against Trump. All the comedy, all the news, the CNN, everything.
I want to say one other thing. President Trump last month proposed a $6 billion cut in funding to the National Institute of Health. And thank God our congressman made a deal last night to not go along with that. They actually increased funding by $2 billion, and I applaud them for doing that. Because more than 40% of the people who would have been affected by those cuts to the National Institute of Health are children, and it would have a major impact on a lot of great places, including Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, which is so unbelievably sad to me. We were brought up to believe that we live in the greatest country in the world, but until a few years ago, millions and millions of us had no access to health insurance at all.
Okay, let's break this down. Millions and millions of us. He's lumping himself into that group. He is the Hollywood rich elite. And as we've said here on the show many, many times before, everyone in America had some kind of health care one way or another. If you didn't have a job and you couldn't afford it, you were poor, homeless, whatever, it's called Medicare. Medicaid.
One of them.
I
always get the two mixed up, but they're both
Medicaid.
They're both single payer government entities that pay for poor or.
And California had their own called
elderly children and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, California has their own. Mm-hmm. So everybody, there was health insurance. You all knew it. Not only that, but you could go to the doctor. You could get fixed and they'd bill you. Nobody would be turned away. So that being said, he then goes on a tear about Trump and talking about Children's Medical Center. Well, hey, rich fat cat comedian, why don't you and about a dozen of your compatriots, why don't you guys go ahead and donate some cash to help out.
All right, just FYI, just for programming, Medicare is the federal program that provides health care if you are 65 or older or have a severe disability, no matter what your income is, no matter how rich you are, poor you are, it doesn't matter. That's what Medicare is. Medicaid is a state and federal program that provides health coverage if you are very low income. So, yeah, that's what that is. Just FYI. One thing I wanted to point out, I've been telling this to people on the phone. I don't think it's been a while since I've talked about this on the show, so I'll go ahead and bring it up again. Back in the day, and I don't even know if it's even available anymore for viewing, but when Donald Trump was a candidate, he had a website, and it was Donald J. Trump. I'm actually going to look it up real quick, see if it's still even active. So there it is. DonaldJTrump.com. And one of the things they had a tab on here, which doesn't look like it's even there anymore, was called, it was his issues. You can click on Issues tab during the campaign, and it would tell you, let's see if it's under About Us. It's inactive. It's not even, there is no tab for it anymore. So when you click on Issues, it was all the different things that you would talk about as a presidential candidate.
He's campaigning for.
Right. And one of the issues that you can click on was healthcare. And he had it was several paragraphs. It was like 10 paragraphs. It was a lot of information there on what his ideas were for healthcare. And one of the things, if I could sum up the whole entire thing, this was his healthcare plan as a candidate. He wanted to have a completely free market capitalist open market system that has insurance across state lines. So these are private insurance companies that would cover you for whatever you wanted to pay for, and they would compete in an open market for the top 75% of wage earners. The bottom 25%, that's a lot of people.
Oh, that's a lot.
Would be in, for all intents and purposes, a single payer government program. So it'd be
Medicaid.
Medicaid. It'd be like taking Medicaid and just expanding it to include the bottom 25%. Now, why would he come up with such a big number? Because if you remember early on in the campaign, he was asked about the healthcare system in America, and he said that the problem with American healthcare is that a lot of the things have become so expensive that normal people in America could never afford to pay for it in their entire lifetime.
Right, never.
Look at my niece. My niece was born preemie and spent 3 months in the prenatal whatever care, intensive care.
Yeah, she was in intensive care for 4 months.
It was 3 months.
3 months.
And they finally got the bill after it was all done.
Yeah, what was it?
It was just a hair under $1 million.
No way!
It was over $990,000.
I remember him talking about it's going to be. I never heard the number though.
It was so big.
Your brother, my cousin.
Well, the reason I know, well, first of all, I think she may have even scanned it, but she put it up on Facebook, and she jokingly called her the $1 million baby.
Wow.
So anyway, yeah, and I remember they did a fundraiser, and I remember thinking to myself, I could donate everything. And then we put a scratch.
I wouldn't even scratch that thing.
Wouldn't even scratch the surface of how much they owe.
So they've got to pay that.
Well, the insurance company insures them up to a cap.
Right.
Everything beyond that, it's on you.
What?
Yeah, that's for everybody. You got a cap.
Everybody's capped.
Yeah, you're capped.
Well, I tell you what, doesn't look like I'm moving anytime soon. I'd stay in my own house. My credit be ruined forever.
Well, yeah,
it is what it is.
And they end up working with you where they're like, well, how much can you pay? And then you end up paying like whatever.
Is it like paying my student loans at $25 a week?
We should probably actually ask her what kind of thing they're working out with her, just for information purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, so I got the $1 million niece going on there. So he said the average normal everyday worker could never pay for any kind of serious medical issues that come up. It could be a broken leg. All of a sudden, I mean, you're practically looking at bankruptcy for just any kind of if you go to the hospital for more than like a day, you're probably looking at a life-altering financial crisis.
Yeah, if you stay overnight.
Yeah, it's too much.
It's way too much.
So that being said, he said 25%. If you're in the bottom 25% of wage earners in the entire country, you'll have access to a government program. And it was funny because cruise crew people were like, he's going for single payer. He's going for single payer. And I'm like, whoa, where are you getting this from? I would tell them, and I got blocked by so many people on Twitter. These are conservatives,
right?
Republicans.
Right.
And I said, no, here's the link to the actual page that tells you what he's going to do. 75% of Americans will be on an open market capitalist system. He's just talking about the bottom 25%. That actually made sense. So if I had Donald Trump in front of me right now, if he had, let's say we had him on the line and we were asking him a question, we were interviewing him, I would say, Donald, do you remember what you had written in there in your website? Are you still going that direction? Are you deviating from it? And if so, how much and for what purpose? I mean, what are you doing here? Because they don't talk about that particular specifics anymore. They don't talk about the 75-25. They don't talk about expanding Medicaid or having it. Maybe it's not called Medicaid. Maybe it's just single payer for bottom 25%. I don't know. But you don't hear those numbers anymore. But it was very specific during the campaign. I liked it. I thought that was good. And you know what I also predicted at the time? I predicted that percentage would drop. Instead of 25%, it would drop down to 20, then 15, then 10, and it would get low. Why? Because the open market for the 75% would dramatically drop healthcare costs.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I agree. 100%.
And then all of a sudden, people who are in lower earning, like bottom 20%, would say, forget this Medicaid crap. I'm just going to buy this cheap health insurance over here. Especially young people who are healthy, because insurance companies would be glad to take them on for a low price. It probably wouldn't be that much for a young, healthy person.
Right. No, I agree.
So yeah, that's what my prediction was. But starting off with the 25-75, I thought that was great. Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to another sound clip. We're running out of time. I got a couple more sound bites. MSNBC has a professor full of hate on about Trump and pro-life and pro-death and all these different, because the health issues come up this week. These are the things that are coming out. Jimmy Kimmel did his crying thing. MSNBC comes out with this thing. Just listen to this. It's MSNBC and then two individuals that are on there. And just to let you know, the two people we invited are black women. That does matter because they made it an issue. I'm not making it an issue. They made it one. So listen to this about MSM.
Joining me now, two people, Nancy Giles, a contributor to CBS News Sunday Morning and the host of the Giles Files podcast, and Christina Greer, associate professor of political science at Fordham University. I introduced you both as people.
I appreciate that.
You're people, but there is a larger dynamic here writ large in the polling about how women, citizens of this country, are feeling, writ large in the policy of how this disproportionately affects women, and then in the policy making, as we just showed.
Well, Nancy. What's so weird to me is that for somebody who's so good at branding and at publicity and at how things should look, that picture of all older white guys being the ones deciding anything.
She's looking at a picture of Donald Trump on the lawn with Paul Ryan and all the guys about the health care bill that they just passed through Congress and sending to the Senate.
About women's health, to not even have a woman there. I mean, it's
Kellyanne Conway was there.
Says it all, actually. And this group, I can't even call them pro-life as much as they seem to be pro-birth. They're fine.
What? Wait a minute. You make it sound like birth just happens by accident.
She's going to get into it. It gets worse.
Fine with like women having babies. They don't really care about the health issues or anything like planning these pregnancies.
So they want women to have babies, but they don't care about planning or health issues.
or taking care of people after that. It's just
take care of nobody.
It's appalling to look at.
But I think the visual of the all older white, predominantly white men is deliberate. I mean, he's done this with his executive orders. He wants his base supporters to see.
We're a bunch of
administration.
skinheads.
He wants them to see this leadership. Women are not involved. People of color are not involved. And I think that this is a very clear. I mean, even it's a branding thing, and it's him and sort of his ilk. But also, though, as far as the pro-life piece, like, there's no such thing as pro-life.
I know.
It's either pro-choice
the other side
and anti-choice.
Yes,
no, it's pro-choice and anti-choice.
I know.
And all these are the same people who were rushing to execute the prisoners in Arkansas last week.
This is ridiculous.
I'm done. Stick a fork in me.
For all you liberals out there, I know you don't listen to us, and thank God for that. But and maybe you should. Maybe you learned something. We don't look at a group of policymakers and see women and say, "Oh God, she's making a decision." You know, the kitchen is in the other room. Okay, go make me a sandwich. We do not. That does not happen.
It's a chicken pot pie. Get in the kitchen, make me chicken pot pie.
Yeah, I want some cheesy poofs.
If I had a wife, I'd tell her, say, "Hey, woman, I'm hungry. Get in the kitchen, make me chicken pot pie."
You know, that's interesting that you say that. I think people see those shows and think that that's actually reality. That people, that's all they think about is whether or not people who are making important decisions are male or female. We don't think that way. You do. You're projecting. You see men and
white.
They have a problem with white men.
And saying that men don't care about anything other than getting somebody knocked up.
Yeah,
and after the baby's born.
You're either pro-choice or anti-choice. Let me tell you something. We're smart, not stupid. We know where babies come from. And we know that the choice to have a child starts with whether or not you're going to decide to have unprotected sex or not. And if you can't stop yourself and you end up pregnant when you didn't want one, well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you. But I will tell you this. You shouldn't solve that problem by murdering an innocent human being. And it is an innocent human being, and it is a human being, and it's living. So stop trying to insult our intelligence. When we went to science class, we took biology. We understand the stages of human life and where it begins and the DNA and all that stuff. Don't try to blow smoke up my butt. I know the science. I know you're killing a living human being. So don't try that crap with me. And you are pro-murder. You're pro-killing babies. Don't give me this anti-choice stuff. Tell me about the choice of the child. What choice does a child have when you go ahead and take care of it with a coat hanger?
Does Trump make you feel like you're crazy? That's the impression I'm getting.
Oh my God, are you calling me crazy?
Yes.
Does Trump make you crazy? Will you call me crazy?
That's the impression I'm getting. Yes, that is the impression I'm getting.
I'm getting that impression. Mary Lou just asked a real question. We need to be here for her.
Okay.
And to help her out, she said, white men are great. Am I a racist?
Depends on whether you think they're great because they're white and man.
There you go.
Or men.
Or just men.
Male.
General. No, of course not. You're awesome. Gosh.
She said, I can't be racist because I'm Asian, right?
Oh, that's interesting, Mary.
Yes, you can be racist if you're Asian.
That's the joke because I've been told many times by black folks in like these women that are social justice warriors that are black, I can say whatever I want. I can't be racist because I'm black. I've heard that a lot.
Oh, I've heard it directly in front of them, not like through the computers, keyboard warriors. You know what I'm talking about? Like they'll say whatever they want. Somebody in front of my face said that. They laughed out loud about the possibility that a black person could be racist. Let me tell you this. Let's flip it. Let's say that whites are a minority, a small minority. Maybe I am a part of a group of white people that only make up 12% of the entire population. If I start prejudging black people as a minority, assuming that black people are the majority, based on the color of their skin, even though I don't know the individuals that I'm talking about, I'm just judging them based on their skin color. Yes, I'd be racist. I couldn't sit there and say, well, no, I can't be racist because I'm a minority. No, that's racist. Period. Racist, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, when the shoe's on the other foot, it's racist either way. Just saying.
Agree, 100%.
Anyway, so I had a couple questions that came into me. I promised this guy I would answer them if I could find the app here.
Okay.
Because we're running out of time. Yep. Let's see if I can get to a couple of them really, really quick.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'll just throw this out. Fake news. Trump had a fake news ad. Trump has an ad coming out for 2020 re-election campaign. CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC all refused to run Trump's re-election campaign ad that blasts them all as fake news. I think it's pretty hysterical. The campaign planned to put out $1.5 million behind a 30-second ad. However, because of this stink up, his ad's gone viral and it's free.
Okay. You ready for lightning round? We have 5 minutes. Artie Sherman, he wrote a bunch of questions I think we should answer. So this is for you, Artie. Number 1, did healthcare pass the Senate?
No, not yet.
Number 2, why is the U.S. government pursuing Assange?
They're not.
Exactly. They are not. They are absolutely not. When they say they are, it's a distraction. Number 3, how are we doing with North Korea? Oh my gosh. You wouldn't believe who's calling right now.
I don't have time.
I know. There's only 5 minutes left.
So what are we doing?
How are we doing with North Korea?
We're doing great and keeping him at bay.
How is the U.S. relationship with China?
Getting better, actually.
Okay.
Because North Korea is pushing China away.
Is China backing off its original treaty to protect North Korea?
Actually, technically, yes, because North Korea told China to go pound sand.
That's right. Number 4, how's the wall and tax reform coming along? That's like 2 questions.
Tax reform's coming out. It's going to be great, going to be awesome. There's from 7 tiers down to 3 tiers. Big, yeah. Huge deal. And the wall, we couldn't play it this time, but Sean Spicer got into it with the media.
Oh, that was
showed them the bollard wall, which is a steel wall.
There you go. Those are the questions. Steel wall. It's a wall. Just because it's made out of metal and it's kind of shaped a certain way doesn't mean it's not a wall. You can't drive a freaking vehicle through it.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is that Spicer showed pictures of what is there currently, which is open land, rickety little wooden bridges over the chain link and all this stuff. And he said, okay, now look at this. It is a 30-foot high steel, not impervious, but pretty much deterrent from coming over.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason why they're building that is because it's cheaper to doing what they wanted to do, which wasn't funded in the bill, but they'll revisit that and get the money on the back end. I'm not making excuses for Trump. I'm just relaying the information to you of what he said. We're talking to you about this out loud because if he reneges on the deal and he doesn't do it, then we'll call him a liar. Haven't been able to do it yet.
And by the way, the original plan was to make it out of the gold bullion.
Right. And do not let your daughters read or listen to or have anything to do with Teen Vogue, social justice warrior, Teen Vogue. A hateful individual on Tucker took her to task. At the very end, when Tucker's like, okay, goodbye now, thank you, she lashed out and said to him, you're a racist SOB blast. And they faded her out really quick so she didn't cuss on air. But just some awful. And that sound effect that I played from her, that was her. This was Trump crazy.
Does Trump make you feel like you're crazy? That's the impression I'm getting.
Oh my God. Are you calling me crazy?
Yes.
Because she said that Trump has triggered everyone. We're all triggered.
We're triggered by Trump.
Trump's triggering everyone.
Yeah, it's triggering me to be patriotic.
Yeah. Don't listen to anything Colbert has to say. I don't care if he gets fired or not get fired. I had a bunch of stuff on him, but I'm glad we didn't talk about him because he's just a tool of the system. Anyways, mainstream media, jokes aside, Saturday Night Live, they're all a bunch of washed up has-beens. They're going to quickly find the comedians making fun of Trump to the extent that it's disgusting and vile.
Yeah.
Are going to quickly find themselves in the minority of comedians. Or the minority, the people who support them are very small, minority of supporters. Because even average people who don't like Trump don't like that vile holster stuff. It's just awful, man.
I can't believe that they're letting him get away with that.
And it was a pre-taped show, so they knew it was going on. They knew it was good to go.
The FCC should shut them down.
Right, and then you got Jesse Waters making an not inadvertent, but a very double entendre, very, statement, and they suspend him for a week.
Who's they? It wasn't the FCC, was it?
No, the powers that be.
In Fox News.
Yeah, the liberal powers that be, because Fox News is owned by libs.
Yeah, it's turning into a lib organization, and that is just sad because that leaves... Actually, it's great. It leaves Smyth Radio as the only bastion of hope for conservatives getting out the word. And also, you got your voice media. You have InfoWars. You have... Who else do we have? I don't want to leave anybody out. Oh, that's me. Sorry about that. That is awesome. You hit 8 o'clock, buddy, and it is out.